I think is the most important aspect. We're going to learn how to use a gimbal and master handheld movement. So if you want to film without any sort of stabilization, we'll run through some techniques to make you a little better at that. We're going to work with recording audio and how my specific formula for planning, shooting, and we're not going to go into editing for this workshop, but planning and shooting and delivering content to our client. Oh, and you're free to ask questions as we go through, because I feel like once we start getting into the meat of the matter, you might have questions about what I'm talking about. You can just ask me here. All right, so what you'll need, so this is principles of videography. So a camera is ideal, but your phone can work as well. One thing though, I wouldn't use the dedicated automatic camera app on your phone. So for iOS, there's a regular camera app, or Android, there's a regular camera app. You can download free manual camera apps that allow you to control specific settings on your camera. So it's not just automatic white balance, automatic ISO, automatic whatever. So yeah, so you can download so if you use the camera as your main shooter, as your main camera, your phone as your main camera, sorry, you can download a manual app that will help you to actually control finer details so your work looks more professional. A notebook or laptop so you can take notes, and creative energy and willingness to learn. Well, I mean, if you spend money to come here, I'm assuming you already have that energy and that willingness to learn. All right, so we're going to go over the basics. Just give me 1 second. So this triangle here is the base of your camera. This is the foundation of your camera. So this consists of ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. This is how you're going to control exposure. That is how bright or how dark an image is. So the ISO it determines how sensitive your camera is to light. So the higher your ISO is usually the more noise or grain it's going to add to the footage. So I don't know if you've ever recorded late at night and you see a whole bunch of artifacts especially in the shadows in the dark, and you bring up your ISO, but the artifacts don't go away and it's still grainy. That's because it's not technically adding any more light, it's your camera digitally adding light. The shutter speed, that's basically how quick your shutter opens and closes. A faster shutter speed allows less motion blur. So motion blur is, you've ever seen somebody waving, and if you pause the video, you kind of see like a trail of them hand? That is motion blur. So the higher you go with your shutter speed is the lower the motion blur, so you'd see less of that and the lower you go. I don't know if you've ever seen those music videos and it's kind of like a dreamy low shutter effect. That is because they bring their shutter speed all the way down. And then aperture is how wide the iris of your camera opens, how wide the iris of your lens opens to let in more light. So if you have a low aperture, so like a 2.8 or 1.8, that means it can let in a lot of light. So if you're shooting at night and you have a camera, you want to bring a lens that has a lower aperture so that you can get more light into the camera and you can get a better exposed image. And you always want to, and these are the basics, you usually want to keep your ISO as low as possible. You want to keep your shutter speed 2 times your frames per second, and the aperture, it depends on what you're shooting. But these are just rules. You can always break the rules for creative purposes. You can always bend the rules for whatever reason you want. Just like I was saying, your shutter speed is supposed to be 2 times your frame rate. So say you're shooting 24 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/50. But you can change it to either suit your needs. So like if you're shooting VFX or green screen stuff and you don't want a lot of motion blur, you're going to bring up your shutter speed. If you're shooting something creative and you want a lot of motion blur, you can bring it down. So it's good to know the basics and the rules so that you can bend it to your will whenever you want. So we're going to go over, as I said, the 5 core principles, and then we're actually going to some details about gear. So story. I think story is the most important part of videography and photography, any creative arts, because this is your objective. This is what emotion you want your audience or your viewers to feel. This is the purpose of the video. Without a clear story, or let's say story/objective, without a clear story or objective, it feels empty, it falls flat, it's not cohesive. Because the story, it's going to determine everything, from your lens choice to what kind of camera movement you use, to the lighting, to the colors, everything. Because if I'm telling a story about a happy girl on a beach, I'm not going to shoot and have her wearing black and have the shot being super far so I can't see the emotions on her face. And it really depends on the story that you're trying to tell. So whenever you have a job or whenever you have a project or anything you want to work on, think first, what do I want my audience to feel? What questions am I answering? And how am I going to achieve that? And that will inform how you make a whole lot of your decisions. Because without knowing what you're trying, the end result, or what you want your audience to feel, then you're shooting in the dark. So we're going to go over composition now. I'm going to go more into storytelling after this, which will be my 5 tips to get storytelling out of anything you're doing, whether it's event coverage, you do narrative work, or just shooting videos for clients, whatever it is. I'll have some tips and tricks that I use every time that I'm on a set. All right, so composition now. Composition is everything that your shot is composed of. Everything that is in your shot, everything that you left out of your shot, that is a composition. So if I show you a frame and you see 2 persons in it, their relation with each other is your composition. How the frame is set is your composition. We're going to go into more details about that. So your composition first starts off with the aspect ratio. So there are a few main aspect ratios. The main is 16:9, which is this here. This is the regular TV screen, and that's because most camera sensors have a 16:9 sensor, which is rectangular in this way. So 16:9, which is this, we'll have 9:16, which is vertical. So imagine your phone screen, how you have more height than it is, it's more long than it is wide. So the aspect ratio, how it works is you put the width first, 16:9, and then you put the height after. So this would be, so technically we'll have 1 unit. This would be 16 units long and 9 units wide, or 9 units, 16 units wide, 9 units long, yeah? 16:9. And then we'll have other aspect ratios. You have a square, which is a 1:1. You have a 4:5, which is Instagram's portrait. Well, it used to be, I don't know what it is now, but at one point you had when Instagram, IGTV was a thing, it was 4:5. So this aspect ratio is going to determine your composition, because this is the end result. This is what your viewers are going to see, or on what device they're going to see. So a lot of times, I know if you guys are freelance, you will hear a client say, oh, let's shoot for vertical and horizontal. Let's shoot for horizontal and vertical, which is they want you to film something and then deliver it in 2 aspect ratios, which causes a lot of issues sometimes. And there's ways to get around that with reframing in post or shooting open gate. So what open gate is more of an advanced tip. What open gate is basically your camera most times doesn't shoot the entire sensor, it shoots a part of the sensor. Open gate allows you to shoot all of the sensor. So you capture the entire image and it gives you a square that you're able to reframe in post a lot better. So it's not just, you're not just stuck with the 16:9 and you have to zoom in a lot. Yeah, you can. Open gate, yeah. Gate as in, not with an S, open gate. Yeah, so not all cameras can do that. So as I say, it's more of an advanced tip. But if you have a camera that can shoot open gate, that's something you can look in where your clients say, I want to deliver to YouTube and for Instagram. You can check if your camera has the ability to shoot open gate and then look at how you can get a better composition that way. So as I said, the aspect ratio is the first part of your composition. Where is it going to be delivered? Who is going to be seeing it? Where is it going to be seen? Is it going to be on TV? Is it going to be on a phone? Is it going to be on a billboard? That will decide what aspect ratio you're going to shoot, whether it's vertical or horizontal, like you see the camera set up there, or you turn the camera on the side so that you can shoot vertically. Rule of thirds is an important composition tool that you can use. That's basically when you draw up a grid here, you see you have 9 distinct squares, 2 lines down, 2 lines across. Where those lines intersect is called the thirds, so here, 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 and here. This is where you usually want to put either a subject or action happening. So here, I put myself on the left of the frame and the action happening on this third, but sometimes you can put the eye line of the person. So say you're having an interview, you want to put the person on the third and have them looking into the empty space here. so that you give them a lot of breathing room, so it doesn't feel confined in the space. So the rule of thirds, it helps create balance and interest rather than just putting somebody dead in the center of the frame. And it guides the viewer eyes to the focal point of the scene. So here are some other examples. So you can do, it's not just for people. For here, the photographer put the horizon on the top third instead of in the middle of the frame, so it creates a little more dynamic image. It gives this foreground area here more of a vastness, but having the horizon on the first third, these lines. All right, so your camera, most cameras, you have the rule of third grid, so it's not baked into the footage, it's just a guide. So you can view it through, your phone has it as well. You can turn on the rule of thirds grid on your phone and you'll be able to see these lines. But it's not baked into the footage. When you go and edit, you're not going to see those columns in your footage. But most cameras, I think all cameras have rule of thirds in it, the rule of thirds guides. And you have different guides, because it might not just the thirds you want to use. They have other ruler guides, if you want to call it that. But this is the most popular one that people do. So what you can do to just make your shots a little more interesting, put the subject's eye line on one of the thirds. So framing is a composition technique where, give me 1 second. Yeah, so framing is a composition technique where you generate interest by putting the subject within a frame. So yes, you already have the existing frame of the device that you're presenting on, whether it's a TV or your phone or whatever it is, but you can add another frame. So like here, the girl is being framed up by the archway. It creates a lot of interest. It draws the viewer's eyes to that. And in this video, it's a recap video that I did, and I have the guy working and I frame him up dead center in the middle of that actual window frame. So I'm trying to show practical examples. It's not just the fancy stuff that you see, and I'm showing ways how you can make even the event coverage when you go on site and you're capturing what is happening a little more interesting. So by framing the guy that's working on the roof within that window frame, it added a little more interest and it draws the viewer's eyes directly to him to show that he's a subject, focus on what he's doing. You have another thing called leading lines for composition. So this is anything that points towards the subject. It can be, as you see here, the lines of the sidewalk or the lines of the hallway that all lead towards a central direction. These leading lines is the same thing as framing. It pulls your eyes into your subject, or it forces your viewers to look a certain way. Because with videography and with photography and with graphic design, hierarchy is very important. Hierarchy is basically you are controlling what the viewer looks at when. So if you ever see like I don't know if there's any graphics in here, but you see like the title is usually really big, and then there's a subtitle a little smaller, and then probably like a micro title right at the bottom. It's all subconscious to get you to read what they want first. So you're going to see the title first, you're going to see that subtitle, and then you're going to read that micro title last. And it's all a part of psychology where you as a designer or you as a videographer are telling your client or telling the viewers what to look at. And leading lines is another great example of composition that you can use to force the viewer or guide the viewer to what you want them to look at. Color. Color is very, very important. As I said, composition is basically everything that makes up your frame. So if it's black and white, your color, or it's monochromatic, sorry. But for color now, very important. Color theory is something that goes very, very deep. People study this as full-time, like it's psychology. Certain colors make you feel certain emotions. Seeing certain colors together make you feel certain emotions. So like red is like passion. So a lot of like alcoholic drinks are red, like Campari, Red Stripe. Red is passion and lust. Blue is cool. Sometimes it can be, make you feel alone, make you feel sick. Think about like snow, like all of those Game of Thrones scenes, everything is really blue because it's cold. So colors really play a really big part in how your image comes across. Because if you have an image that's very warm, you usually feel happier or you feel more calm. Cool can be professional, or it can feel, it goes very deep. So I use Adobe Color. Oh, so right here, this example, I'm using FrameSet. So FrameSet is an app you can use free for the most part to get references. FrameSet.app. And so these references, if you have an idea in your mind and you're trying to get that idea to clients, you can use FrameSet to look for references of visually similar stuff. Or if you need inspiration, you can go to FrameSet and look at, these are other productions that other cinematographers, other DPs have used to, these are real productions that they've taken still frames from and put it on FrameSet that you can go through and you can look at references. You can say, oh, I want to shoot a high-key perfume ad. Let me look for perfume ads on FrameSet, and you can say examples and you can kind of draw inspiration from it. It's kind of like Pinterest, but for cinematography. But as I said, color goes deep, and I think that is something that you should pay some attention to in terms of being intentional with the color that you're choosing for your talent to wear, the colors in the background, and even in post-production, the colors that you grade the footage to be. I'm going to run over a few terms. Oh. Quit? Hold on. That is that command? No. I think I have to set it up. Okay, I'm going to go over a few terms that when speaking about color you might have. So hue. So hue is the name of the color. That's whether it's red, blue, green. Saturation, that's how intense or how vivid it is. So if an image is highly saturated, you get that it's colorful. All of the colors are very strong. If it's not very saturated, all the colors are very dim and it's mostly gray and it's not that interesting. And then brightness, or the value, is how bright or how dark that color is. Yeah, as it says here, so you use color theory to guide your lighting, the wardrobe, the set design, and even color grading. Warm colors like red, orange, and yellow, they give off energy, passion, and warmth. And cool colors such as blue, green, purple can give calm, sadness, or professionalism. Negative space is a good part of composition. So as I said, composition is not just what's in the frame, but what you left out. So in this instance, we're creating a feeling of vastness by having just the subject within the frame, but showing a whole lot of the landscape. So it draws attention to the subject. One, by having a whole lot of negative space, you're forced to focus on the subject because there's nothing else in the frame to look at. It creates balance. Your frame doesn't always have to be crowded for it to feel full, because this shot feels very purposeful. It doesn't feel like somebody just stumbled upon it. It feels like it's something that was orchestrated. And it adds mood, so it can feel calm, isolated, or dramatic based on how you use this technique. Lighting. So this now is very important. Lighting shapes the image, right? Cameras, what they do is read light. So as videographers, as cinematographers, as DPs, we use light to paint. We use light to shape that image, to shape faces, to shape what the audience sees. Because the difference in lighting, I'm going to show here a few examples on this actual setup, is drastic based on how you light a subject. I can have anybody to come and sit right here. You can just sit here. Where's the input here? You should be getting the feed, right? Wait a second to come up. Alright, so I'm going to go over a few different things about lighting, like the placement, the types of light, and stuff like that. Just give me a second, we're just trying to get the camera feed up so you can see it here on the camera, on the TV. Anybody have any questions so far?
Question. The previous, we're talking about phrasing earlier, where you had a lot of negative space. What kind of shot would that be ideal for?
Where's your mic?
Yeah, like,
Oh.
like where or what type of scenery would that be ideal for? What kind of shot?
So for something like that, if you're using a whole lot of negative space, similar to the example that I showed, that can be used as an establishing shot to show probably a lonely barn in a vast farm, or a sole survivor in an apocalypse. So that amount of negative space, it really gives a sense of isolation. So I think that could be a good use case if you're telling a story.
So you're setting the location.
So you're setting the location, yeah.
Okay. That's why you say establishing.
Dwight, you can help me with?
Could that lonely shot also depict?
Oh no. Say that again?
Yeah, so could that lonely shot also depict like a product image? Like what would you put a product in that lonely shot, or would you want to put a product more so?
Yeah, so it depends. I think I get what you're saying in terms of having negative space for the product.
Yeah.
So that what that can do, it can give that product a sense of heroism because you make it the biggest thing in the frame. So that negative space doesn't always have to be at the scale that it is here, where it's the whole frame is negative, but if you give it enough breathing room, it feels like that image or that product is special, or that you focus on that product. So you know, sometimes you have product shots that are integrated with like leaves or what other elements from the product. Sometimes you can have the product by itself, and that would be a case of negative space.
So when you're what was the lining called again? Or
The rule of thirds?
Rule of thirds. When you're lining up that product for the rule of thirds, what would you kind of want to pinpoint on the product? Or what are you going to be looking specifically for in that rule of thirds?
So in using rule of thirds, an example, because I say is techniques and you can deviate from it, but in an example of a product, say you have, give me an example of one of the products yourself.
The cleansers.
So you have a cleanser, you can have it placed on one of the thirds at the foreground, and in the background is some blurred, I don't know, some kind of ingredients that you use for it. So that way it's on the third here, and I don't know if you can imagine the grid lines here. So you put it on the leftmost third, and then in the background, out of focus, you have some of your products or some of the ingredients that you use. So that's a way how you can utilize the rule of thirds.
Okay. So, sorry,
That's
but
fine.
there's also, because I do furniture, and so if I'm going to be doing like a lot of furniture or rental properties, how would that kind of how would you then put the picture so that it is kind of like
So what you can do, so even when
zooming in on like a bed or a, you know.
Yeah, so what you can do even in situations like that. So real estate is a little different
Yeah.
because you usually want to show the entire space. It's not really something that you get a lot of creative freedom with because you're supposed to be as objective as possible. You want to just show them what's there. But if you're getting creative with how you're showing it off, you can have one of the main items, like you said, a bed frame placed on one of the thirds, so that is the focal point, and then the rest of the room kind of falls off. So that's a use how you can showcase furniture that way. But I know real estate is a little different, where you kind of want to be as objective as possible, just show the space. But if you're being creative with it, as I said, the rule of thirds or having negative space can be something that you use to kind of enhance that.
Okay.
Yeah? Oh, thanks, by the way. Everybody can see DJ, right? Oh, you know, I have a video to play first. Hold on. All right, DJ, I have a 3-minute video to play first. You can just go in the crowd and watch it. And then I'm going to beg you back. Hold on, I'm Pavon. I direct in Jamaica. And today we're going to do a breakdown of this beauty shoot that we did for our client. Oh, you guys not seen it? All right, give me a second. Straight to the TV. This is change the input. Yeah. Hello, I'm Pavon. I direct in Jamaica, and today we're going to do a breakdown of this beauty shoot that we did for our client. Light is so nice, Matthew. You know what I'm saying? You can't do it. Alright, so for this shoot, the client was saying that they want something nice and clean, so they came to kinematics, you know, the best place to go. We'll have 4 lights for the setup. There's the main key light, double diffuse, so that the light is going through 2 layers of diffusion. Super soft, buttery smooth skin. The client was very intentional about not doing much post. They want them to feel real, so we're trying to do it in camera, make it as nice and soft as possible. So we have one main key light here, that's a 600D. It's shooting 2 panels of diffusion, so it's like 8 by. Give me 1 second, let me play it straight from my computer so it's not lagging. Give me 1 second. Light is so nice, Matthew. You know what I'm saying? You can't do it. Alright, so for this shoot, the client was saying that they want something nice and clean, so they came to kinematics, you know, the best place to go. We'll have 4 lights for the setup. There's the main key light, double diffuse, so that the light is going through 2 layers of diffusion. Super soft, buttery smooth skin. The client was very intentional about not doing too much post because they want the makeup to feel real. So we're trying to do it in camera, make it as nice and soft as possible. So we have one main key light here, that's a 600D. It's shooting to 2 levels of diffusion. We have an 8 by T-bone frame setup. And we'll have 2 backlights here. We'll have them in these long GT. What is his name? We'll have them in 2 long strip boxes. And then we'll have this backlight here because we turn off all the house lights in the studio. We want to be able to control every light possible. So we turn off the house lights and we're using this F22C to light the background so that we'll have a nice even white, and then we'll have the model being lit from one side. Because it's a beauty shoot, you usually want it to have nice flattering lighting, but we still want some contrast. So instead of adding a second fill light over this side, we decided to keep it empty. We're not adding any negative fill because we still want some of the bounce from the side wall to give that nice fall off from, you know, from the key light into darkness. So you're going to see some shots now of what we actually captured, and we're also going to play around with the probe lens a little bit. makeup so we can get those shots. And then we're going to do some product photos after. But I think it's been going really good so far. The client loves it. I hope you get any reaction, any videos of reaction?
How do I feel about the shoot? I'm very excited. I'm through the moon, and am I surprised? No, because I saw the work. The proof was in the pudding. I'm just now eating the pudding. Get me? It's really good. I like working with people who understand vision, who understand the art of storytelling. It's not just point to your camera and shoot. Like you get me, you know? And kinematics gets me.
Kinematics gets her. Breakdown of how we did this beauty shoot. We did a quick lighting setup and some behind the scenes of the actual production. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more content from me or from Kinematic Studios, you can click the subscribe button down below. You can comment what you want the next, and best of yourself. Don't stress of yourself. Alright, so let's get into a little bit of the lighting now. Going to add more to the dark shadow side of the subject, and then the backlight or rim light will be able to take the subject off of the background because it adds, you ever see like those shots of somebody at sunset and they have, like when the light hit them shoulder, you see how it's like it's glowing, it creates an outline. So that's basically what the fill light, the rim light does. It creates an outline on the subject to separate it from the background. So none of these lights are on now. I'm going to turn them on in a second so you can see what they do. But as you can see here, you want to set up your light, your key light, about 45 degrees from the front of the subject. So as you can see, DJ is looking here. The key light is about 45 degrees to the right, and you usually want to point it down as well because to the eye, most times we're seeing people from either ceiling lights or the sun. So light usually comes from above, so that's how we want to emulate how we see with our eyes, but we want to make it a little nicer. So this key light here is going through some diffusion. I'm going to go through what all of this is in a second. I'm just going to show you the difference that it looks. This is with no lights, and then we're going to show you how it looks with each light turned on. So this is the key light on. Oh, you're not seeing it on the screen, right? Let me. Are you seeing it now? No. I have the reflector dish though. Yeah.
Over that side?
Behind her, on the right side. All right, as you can see, the difference with just one light is pretty drastic. That is it without the key light. That is it with the key light on. Oh, you weren't seeing it a while ago? All right, so this is it with the key light off. And this is it with it on. As I say, key light is usually your brightest light in your shot. And this is really good for interview setup. So if you have 3 lights, you don't have to start off like this. You don't have to be this expensive equipment. It can be, you have some lights that come with the actual bulbs that you put into like your ceiling lights and stuff. You have some cheap tube lights. I actually started off with, you ever see those long lights in music videos, the tube lights? I couldn't afford one when I just started. So I had, no, you gotta hit her with it. Yeah. And bring it around somewhere. Yes, I couldn't afford a tube light when I just started, so I went to the hardware store and got those. You see the lights that in the ceiling right now? I got some of these. It was way cheaper, and I just used those. I couldn't afford those expensive tube lights that you could connect with your phone and the app and all of that and program it. I couldn't afford that, so I bought one of these, and it was probably a safety hazard because it had wires hanging out of it, and I plug it straight into like an outlet. It was actually really dangerous. I was supposed to bring it today, but I forgot. So you don't have to start off with something like this. You can start off with what you can.
I actually went to go to the other day because I'm doing a DIY photography. It's not a tube light.
Yeah, what's the name of it?
Well, no, man. The one that I got is not a tube light.
Uh-oh.
I just got the one with the hole because I actually made something
To put it into.
So they actually have.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to give you the mic. What if a mic can give her?
If you go to Guns and ask them for raw material with the bulb, they actually have it made. So they have it that like they put it in the lamps. So if you go in the store,
there's
you
like a
see an
reflector
official
in there?
lamp,
Uh-huh.
but they have raw material where you can actually buy just the plug and the bulb if you actually want to do like a DIY.
Okay, yeah. And they have, so like this here, they have cans as well that you can put the same bulb that you're talking about. You can put it in this. What this does is it multiplies the light output because it's a reflector. It's going to have the light bounce off of this reflective surface, and when it's output, it's 1, harder light, and 2, it's a little more powerful because not necessarily this one. You have some that Aperture makes that are, it has some, like the way how the reflectors on the inside is laid out, it amplifies the light a lot more. But this is a good thing you can use to 1, control the light, and 2, increase the amplitude just a little bit. So we're using this as a backlight. I'm going to go over this in a second. I'm just going to put on the fill light. As I did say, it's a 3-point lighting setup. So we're going to turn this down though, because this should not be as bright as the key light. Because what you want to do, and this is too bright. While I'm adjusting, I'm going to tell you why I'm adjusting. So right now, her face looks a little flat in terms of there's no contrast. It's evenly lit across all of her face. I'm going to turn down the brightness of the key light. And I'm going to rotate it even more. So this now is a little more interesting, where all of her face isn't the same. I don't think it's focused. Where all of her face isn't lit evenly. I'm going to turn on the key light over this, the fill light over this side, sorry. Oh, sorry. So that is it without the fill light. As you can see, it is a lot more contrast. The contrast is basically the difference between the brightest part of the image and the darkest part. So the contrast between the brightest part and the darkest part is more dramatic here. So this can work if this is the image you're going for. You want something a little more dramatic, but if you're doing it for like a corporate interview, they usually want clean, bright, that kind of feeling. So we're going to add the fill light to just fill in the shadows over this side and give it a more flat look, which, as I say, it depends on the story. What are you trying to tell? Is she being interrogated by the FBI? It don't look so. You get me? Is she doing a corporate interview? Maybe. So let's make it, let's do a lighting setup for a corporate interview. I'm going to put the fill light on. As you can see, that evens out the contrast, so it looks like her face is evenly lit. And then we're going to add the backlight now, or the rim light, which will turn that all the way down. So now you get a little bit more separation, as you can see. And even like the chair here is lit versus just having her fall into the background. So let's set up a lighting setup for something a little more dramatic. So we want to do, she's being interrogated by the FBI. Let's do that. Can turn off the house lights for a second. And as best as you can, if you can control the house lights, what I'm referring to is the lights of that room. So as I said, turn off the house lights to get it very dark. So now this, as you can see, is a lot more dramatic. It's even here, it's even brighter, because you guys are seeing it a little differently than I am. But, so this is good if you're doing dramatic, if you're doing for a specific purpose, but there are some things that you need to look out for. Because as I say, your story, think about your story first. What purpose are you shooting the shot? What do you want the shot to feel? What emotion do you want your audience to feel? So this, I'm getting scared. I don't know if DJ actually is scared. Oh, I'm getting a little uncertainty, and the lighting is adding to that because, as you can see here, there are some shadows under her eyes. We call those raccoon eyes. You know, raccoons have a different black eyes while the rest of them skin is brown. So we call this raccoon eyes, which usually we try to avoid in videography, especially if you're doing corporate stuff. So like a high key lighting for an interview or stuff like that. You want to avoid those shadows under the eye because it's not flattering for faces. It enhances the bags on the eyes. It's not very flattering for faces. So usually you want to avoid this, but as I say, it depends on the story. Because suppose we want her to look unflattering. Suppose we want her to look beat up and bruised, and we want her to look afraid. Then that is how you use your light to tell that story. So I'm going to go back to the corporate interview and explain a little bit more about lighting and how we want the light to feel on somebody's face. You can turn back on the house light for me. These lights are, I can turn back on these as well. Thanks. So this here is your 3-point lighting setup. A key light, most important, because that is going to add brightness to your subject. Usually you want your subject to be the brightest part of the image so that your eyes are drawn to it. You have the fill light. You use that to fill in the shadows on the opposite side, usually to give a more flattering look. Like the beauty shoot that I showed you earlier, we had a large diffuse light to create nice shadows on her face. I'm going to go into the difference between hard shadows and soft shadows and why that matters. And then the backlight is the least important, but it also adds a nice kick where it kind of brings her off of the background and creates a lot of separation. I mean, you're not seeing it very clearly here because the color of the chair and the background is pretty similar, but usually the backlight, you can have it as a different color temperature or a different color. Give me 1 second. And that will add even more contrast. I'm going to go over all of those terms in a second. Yes?
The backlight and the fill light, they are usually about the same intensity?
So the backlight, it depends. So if you want it to be very dramatic, your backlight can be more powerful than your key light. And then in that way, you'll be silhouetting the person. So like if you think about somebody standing up in front of a sunset, the background is very bright and the subject is very dark. So it depends on the story that you're telling and the preference that you want. But usually if it's a setup like this, your backlight going to be at a small percentage just so you can have a little level, because you don't want it to be too hot so that it's distracting. Hot meaning bright. You don't want it to be too hot so that it's distracting. But it might be for your use case. You want it to be a silhouette. You don't want to see your face. We can turn off this and this. And Jermaine, can you just hit the house lights for me? Where that's a different look than before.
Okay.
So it depends on what you want to do, but for a corporate interview, you want your key light to be the brightest and about 45 degrees off to the opposite side of the camera. You want your fill light to be on the opposite side of the key light, 45 degrees as well. And then your backlight, you usually have it opposite to the key light. So as you see here, key light and a backlight, it's on the same plane in this way, and then the fill light is filling in the shadows here. You can turn back on the house lights. All right, thank you. Yeah?
When you do a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
would it be the kind of the same kind of?
So yeah, if you're doing like a podcast, it would be the same. But the thing is, what you can do for,
Sorry.
so for those on the stream, Sasha, I just
Hi.
asked. You can go?
Okay, so when you're doing a podcast, what is it the similar kind of setup?
So a podcast can be the same thing, but you might do something they call, instead of fill light and key light, they might do something they call cross keying. So that's when you use two fill lights because you have two subjects. So imagine DJ is sitting down. You can just rotate your chair for me. Imagine DJ is sitting down and somebody is on that side speaking to her as well. What you can do is this fill light would be for that person, and then this wouldn't be a fill light. This key light, sorry, would be for that person, and then this light wouldn't be a fill light anymore. It would be a key light for this person. So we turn up the intensity so that they're both on the same level, and then that way you have an evenly lit image. But as I said, that is based on the storytelling, because you have some podcasts that are more contrast, they're a little more dynamic, but dramatic, sorry. But for your regular podcast, I would say you'd do something called a cross key. You have two key lights that are hitting the subjects across from each other, and then that way as well you can throw in a backlight if you want to make it a little more interesting. All right, so we're going to go over some key terms now and some definitions for lighting. Thank you, Deidre. All one, and from one, and direct in Jamaica. Okay. Okay, all right. 1 o'clock, okay. All right, if you guys are paying attention, what are the three lights used in a 3-point lighting setup? All right, I'm hearing them. What I do if everybody's saying them. Say, all right, give me one. Backlight. Well, that would be technically the same thing. So the backlight or the rim light or the hair light is the same thing. So give me the next one. Fill light. Yeah, so you have the key, which is usually the brightest light, about 45 degrees off your subject. You have the fill light, usually a little dimmer. And the fill light, it doesn't have to be a light. A fill light can be a reflector. You know those 5-in-1 reflectors that you have? It doesn't have to be a light. You can just use it to bounce back some light. Or it can be negative fill, which is a black material that you use to prevent light from bouncing back, so it creates even more contrast. So what I was showing you earlier with Deidre, how she had light on one side of her face and you had shadow on one side. You can increase the intensity of the shadow or make the shadows darker by adding negative fill, which is any black material you can find that will absorb light. So you put that right here on her face, you get an even more contrast, the image, you get her face to look even more dramatic. So that's negative fill, which is another part of the 3-point lighting setup that's a little more advanced. All right, that's good. Let's go into some terms about lighting. You can see it on this? Okay. All right, so we're going to go over some terms now. So hard light versus soft light. I probably used that term a couple times while describing the setup a while ago. Hard light is light that is not diffused, not reflected, or not going through any sort of material. The sun is a hard light source. It just comes, I mean, technically it's being diffused by the atmosphere, but we don't take that into consideration. It's coming directly at you, and it usually causes dark, unflattering shadows. So, I don't know if you've ever filmed anything in 12 o'clock midday sun and your subject look like they're disheveled because they have these big bags on their eye, the raccoon eyes, and it's just not flattering. The shadow on their nose is very long. That is because a lot of hard light is hitting them and it's creating these unflattering shadows. The human mind, for some reason, doesn't like seeing that. We like seeing diffused lighting on faces. So usually for beauty shoots especially, you have to have soft diffused light. I'm going to get into what that is. So diffused light now is basically soft light. So soft light is light that is going through some sort of diffusion, which is being reflected or bounced, or going through some sort of material. So this here is a softbox or a diffuser because the light is going through this material that is translucent. Let me turn this down before I turn it on too. No? This is actually going through 2 layers of diffusion. As you can see, there's an inner layer here that's diffusing it, and then the next layer here. So the thing with that is, each layer of diffusion that you have softens the light even more, but it also cuts the light output. So this light, if I take that off all of this, it's a lot brighter. Let me just do that right now, actually. As you can see, the light coming out of this would be considered hard light. You can use it in special use cases, and especially for narrative, like narrative work, like you're telling a story, you want to use a lot of hard light in special areas, because in real life we see hard light all the time. Sunlight coming through a window, that's hard light. Anywhere the sun really is, most of these light bulbs are diffused because of the casing that they're in, but we see hard light a lot of times in real life. So when you're doing narrative stuff, you don't want to just use soft light, you're gonna mix them up. So like, you'll have DPs using like a slash of light on a desk to show light coming into a room, and you have diffused light hitting somebody's face because, as I say, you really want to show faces with light that is a little softer. But as I said, there's a downside of diffusing the light. One is it cuts down the light output. So this could have been giving us, say, 10 units of light or 10 foot candles, but when you put it through the diffusion, you're getting like 2 or 3. Those aren't actual values, but we measure light by foot candles. As you can see here, we did this shoot for Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and this is outside in the sun. The difference why this doesn't look terrible is, as you can see, Sanjay is Hollywooding a piece of diffusion. Hollywood is basically when you hold equipment instead of putting it on a stand. So if somebody say, you can Hollywood this light for me, that means stand up and hold the light. So because Sanjay was diffusing the light that was coming in on her, the sunlight, we're able to get diffused light on her face. A lot of this was done in post-production in terms of bringing up her levels because she was still darker compared to the background. But on the shoot day, without that diffusion, her face would have been, there's a lot of raccoon eyes on her. It wouldn't be very flattering. So that's why we had Sanjay hold up the diffusion over her head to get that diffused light. And that is something that you can do when you're shooting outdoors, whether it's video, whether it's photo. You can use the diffusion in the 5-in-1 diffusion. Jeremy, you have a 5-in-1 diffusion here?
Yeah.
Let me see it. And you can let me know if you think I'm going too fast, by the way. Louder.
Yeah, I can really.
You can barely hear me, my bad. Yes, sorry, a question. Okay. So that yellow thing there is a subject, obviously. Camera is labeled camera. Oh, and I got this picture from Studio Binder. I use Studio Binder when I'm creating storyboards. So you can take that down if you want to create storyboards for your client. It is free up to a point, but I use that often. So if I want to get my idea across to a client, I can go to Studio Binder and create storyboards. So this is the 5-in-1 reflector that I'm talking about. It's called 5-in-1 because you have 5 different sides. You have silver to bounce light. This black would be negative fill. You have gold on the inside, which is the same reflector but for warmer light. So if you want to like give the impression of sunset or something like a warmer light source, you use the gold, and then you have the actual diffusion itself. So this is what Sanjay is holding here, right over her head to give this softer lighting on her face. Studio Binder, yes.
For those of you who are a part of the lighting and photography workshops, you will be seeing some overlapping of the information. For those of you who are a part of the photography and lighting workshops, you'll notice that there is some amount of overlapping with the information. It's a similar setup. It is the management or manipulation of lights and shadows that create a good image or video.
Definitely. So as Jermaine said, a lot of the principles of lighting will overlap with photography. The only difference is we're using continuous lights instead of flash, because for video, if you use flash, you're just going to be flickering in the video versus constantly on like this. Color temperature now, so that is a term that describes how warm or how cool light is. It's measured in Kelvin. It goes from about 1,000 Kelvin to about 10,000 Kelvin. The lower the value is, the warmer it is. The higher the value is, the cooler it is. So as you can see, you have 32,000 Kelvin, which is tungsten light. That is like the orange bulbs that you have in your house. You have 5,600 Kelvin, which is daylight or sunshine. Like if you go outside, the sun is technically 5,600 Kelvin. So I don't know if you ever see on your phone where it has a feature called white balance. That is basically setting the temperature of the image. So if I come into this room, I want to match the white balance of the lights in here so that if I film a white piece of paper, it's replicated as white in camera. Because if I change my white balance to say 3,200, which is very warm, the paper is going to come out looking very warm. But if I have a light that is 3,200 and I point it at a white paper and change my white balance to 3,200, the white paper will look white, or what is supposed to be white. Color temperature is another part of, yeah? Can you get the mic, please?
Yeah, I have a question. In terms of white balance, you said 3,200 is very warm, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so why is it in camera? If you put the Kelvin to 3,200, it actually look blue.
Say that again?
Yeah, man. So the Kelvin setting in the cameras itself, 5,000 will generally be at the middle, right? If you go higher, like 6,000, 7,000, the image starts to get warmer. But if you go down low...
Yes, no, they're supposed to be the higher. Give me a second. Let me have a camera right here. It's supposed to be... I hear the question you're asking. Oh, yeah, you're right. I don't know. I guess it's wrong in this diagram then. You're right. It's the other way around. Where...
Good catch.
Good catch. I don't know if you realize. Where the higher it is the warmer it gets. Thank you for that. And ignore this. The higher it is, the warmer it gets.
Okay.
So the lower values are cooler. Thank you for that. So as you were saying, when you change the value,
I think the distinction is the lower the number for the light itself, the warmer it is. But in camera, the lower the setting in the camera, the cooler it is.
It's a comparison.
Yeah, that's
So
what
the camera is compensating.
Yeah, right. The camera is compensating for the light.
Yeah.
Would that then answer what you were explaining about if the light on the camera have the same setting and balance?
okay, that's why it would balance out because it's going in the opposite direction. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you are correct, and this diagram is correct. So in terms of the white balance on the camera, the actual light. But when you change the white balance in the camera, it's compensating for the change. Yeah, thank you. I never realized that, but so that's what's happening. So say you have a light that is orange or very warm. When you change the white balance in the camera, it gets it gets cooler to balance out that warmness. Yeah.
For example, if you are using one of the normal, sorry, thank you. If you were using, for example, the normal ovens with the tungsten bulb, if you were to balance that, you would see the food in the actual oven itself
In the oven,
as
yeah.
that normal color. However, if you were to use a fluorescent light, like the strips as normal, you would see outside being blue.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
compensation between the two.
Okay, so that's a good point where the camera is actually compensating for the changing color. So this color temperature chart that you see here is for the light. And when you change it in the camera, it's going to get, so say you have a warm light. This here, it can change color because this is a bicolor light. So I can make this warmer. So this is at 2500 Kelvin. If you change your white balance in the camera to 2500, it's going to balance this out to be 56 or regular white light. Say that again? And then because this light is now white, the rest of the room is going to be even more blue because these lights are close to being white. All right, so not only, yes.
So if the setup in your camera is I don't remember the term, say warm, and then the light that you have actually set up is warm, what does that mean for your image?
The image is going to be warm overall.
Just, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
to
we
get
want
your
it to
image
be
to be,
balanced.
if you want it to be balanced, then you want to match the color temperature of the light. So say the light is 3200, like I'll have it here. If you change the white balance on your camera to be 3200, this light is going to look white. But the thing is, when you change white balance, this isn't the only light in the room. So this becomes white, but the rest of the lights become extra blue because compared to this light, these are technically blue right now, and they're going to become more blue if you try to correct this to be white. I'm going to show you an example on the camera here.
So in essence, you want to match the white balance with your key light or the main light source in the room.
Say that again.
So in essence, you're saying you want to match.
Yeah, you want to match it. You want to match your white balance with the key light,
or whatever is the main light source.
Exactly, because you want, for most cases, as I say, once you learn the rules, you can break it. For most cases, you want to have a balanced image so that when you go in post-production, you have the ability to push it either more cool or more warm. But you want to have a balanced image in post. So if you look here at this camera, I'm not able to show it on the screen. That light there is basically, you see how warm it is here, but in the camera, it looks more like white, closer to white. Yeah. But you realize the rest of the room is very blue.
Right.
That's because the lights here now, in comparison to this, is at a different temperature from that. Okay. So if I balance this light to the temperature of the lights in the room, and then I change the white balance, everything should be at a proper white balance.
So that's another major reason why you're supposed to turn off the house lights.
Yes, because that will contaminate the image where sometimes you're not able to match it directly, or sometimes the house light might have a little bit of green or magenta in it that will make your lighting a little muddy. So you want to turn off the house lights, yeah?
If they hold up their phone or their cameras now, would they be able to see what you just showed her?
So you can if you have the manual app, like I said, because on your phone it has auto white balance. So it will automatically correct whatever it is to have white be white. But if you have the manual app, you can change your white balance. So if you look at it now, it's going to, if you point your phone at the light now, you're going to see the white balance change versus if you have it pointed at the room. I think you might have to go closer to it for it to. I don't know if you can see from my phone here, but the rest of the room is blue compared to the light.
Yeah.
And then if you point it here, it changes. So if I point it at the rest of the room, I know it's hard to see. You guys can get up. If you can get up, you can come right here and just point the camera at the light. If you point it at the light, the rest of the room becomes blue. If you point it anywhere else, the room looks normal. Because when you point it at the light, the auto white balance in your camera in your phone camera is compensating for the extra warmness of this light. Yeah.
So this camera's white balance has been set to match the light. So
You
this
can
is
see
what
this,
Cabo
if you
is
can see the
explaining.
screen, the room is blue, but that light looks white.
This is now cool light.
Yes.
So how would you get it back to being warm, or you have to? Oh, sorry. So this is now cool light, but how would you know get it back to being like on the warmer side?
So what you can do is change the white balance to not match this light, but to match the room light. So then that light will show us warm.
Wait. Say that again.
So what's happening now is you have two different light sources. One is this very warm or very orange light.
Yeah.
The next is this, let's call this neutral light, which is the light coming from the ceiling, from
Yeah.
the
House
light.
House light. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want, there's two things you can do. You can white balance to these lights, or you can white balance to this light.
Can you give us? Can you show us? Like
Yes, I can show you on the
example?
camera here. Let me. Oh, in my bag. Give me a second. We're going to take a short break after we finish this segment. I can turn off the house lights for me, and I can have somebody sit down right here, please. Anybody? No, I think you want to see it. So.
Like I was just like, I'm not doing it.
All right, so let's make it a little simpler. Let's turn off the house lights so we're not competing with any other light.
Ooh, this is a warm. Okay.
So that's very warm, as you can see.
Yeah.
If I change my white balance,
It's down the bottom. Yeah, right there.
if I change my white balance to 2500, which is matching this right now, you see how the image looks more neutral?
Yeah.
But look at her right now in real life, she's very warm.
She's very Okay.
And it's the opposite if I change the light to blue and then I change my white balance higher, it will match it and compensate, and then she will look neutral. Because right now she looks neutral because my camera's white balance. I mean, there's some room to, yeah, as I said, even with lights like this, you can change the green and magenta shift in the image, but we're not going to go all of that right now. This is technically even still I think a little blue.
Yeah,
It's not
this will
neutral.
This will be the cooler side.
Yeah, let me go to a little more neutral. So the thing is, all right, let me change this from 2500.
Yes, cool.
It's still, because it's at the extreme. It's at the furthest point of the camera's white balance and the furthest point of that light. So it's a little extreme, so you wouldn't really go that extreme. Or if you do, you still have room in post. Yeah?
Question that you have all the white balance on the camera, right?
Yeah, there is.
You can switch it on and see how it look like. But the camera decide what it thinks is.
So that is
more
its
neutral,
interpretation
though.
of the white balance. So the thing, what it did a while ago, it added a lot more green into it so that it balances out what her skin tone was a little magenta. So I wasn't going into green and magenta shift, but. Say that again?
Kind of show the color distributions looking at the histogram in the corner.
Oh, yes. As you can see, this is a histogram you can use to see the different distribution of color, as he said. And as you can see up here, the white balance is 2600, 26,550, and the tint is -7, meaning it's more green. If a positive number is mean, it's more magenta. So that's green or purple. And then if you do the opposite, where you make this very cool, and you change the white balance, it will neutralize the image again. You understand a little bit better? Yeah? The app, there's a manual one called M Camera, I think. I think you have, but you can just look up any free camera app and it should be good.
Camera.
M as in money? Yeah, M Camera. Thank you. Can you turn back on the house lights, please? So that's color temperature.
Is there one for Android?
Android, I'm not sure the name, but there's free camera apps all the time. Usually they only charge you if you want special features like shooting in super slow motion or whatever it is, but usually the camera apps are free. You can look it up now, and if you find one that works for Android, I can just tell the rest of the class.
Somebody with an Android, try the Black Magic app. Black Magic, so Black. Yeah, so the Black.
Okay, the Black Magic
to
app.
confirm, the Black Magic app works on both Android and iOS. Oh, and it's free.
And it's free. Okay, perfect. And so with that app, you can change your auto white balance. Because as I said, with the phone a while ago, when we pointed it at that warm light, everything became blue because it's doing the auto white balance, which sometimes you might not want that. So when you have the control over your camera settings, you're more in control of the story that you're telling to your viewers. As you can hear, light direction plays a big role in lighting as well. We have two important terms. One is called far side key and one is called near side key. So because I told you that we would put, can I have somebody else here to be a, let me give you back this. So we're going to go over far side key and near side key. Far side key is when, so this here would be near side key because the key light is on the side of the subject nearest to the camera. So this is usually frowned upon in the cinematography world because to get images to be more dramatic and more interesting and more contrasty, you're going to do a far side key. Because right now, if I were to come in closer, this is called near side key, as I said, because it's lighting on the same side of the camera. If I were to switch this on the other side, which I'm going to do now, I don't have a card in there. All right, here what? Instead of doing that, let me use this fill light as a key light over here. It adds more depth and more interest in. Let me turn it up some more. So usually if you want something to feel more cinematic, you're going to shoot with a far side key. And even that is a little too harsh. So that should be a little better. So as you can see, the difference between when it was near side key, her face flat, and you can see all her features. This, it adds some mystery, it adds some contrast, as you're seeing a lot more shadow. As I say, when you're using light, think about you're painting the image, and I'm creating contrast across this side of her face. With the far side key, it's a lot more dramatic, and people usually consider this to be more cinematic. So they say, always light from the far side. I mean, if you can't, you can't, but that's a good practice to instantly make your shots look a little more interesting.
All right, so I hear you using the term cinematic, right? But with that far side lighting, what kind of story would she be telling at this point? Like what's the feel that I'm getting? Because I'm looking at it, I'm seeing the difference. But is it that I'm trying to have more of an emotional appeal from that type of lighting?
So in terms of far side key versus near side key, it does have an emotional effect on people because, as I said, for the far side key, it's a little more mysterious. You're not seeing all of her face. It's a little bit more, it makes the audience a little more curious as to who is this? What is happening? That's if you're shooting a subject. Versus the near side key where you're seeing everything. You know who this person is, that kind of thing, yeah?
Thank you. Wouldn't it also depend on the sort of the actress position and their movement, because just now when the far side key was on her, I saw her kind of lift up her head, and rather than mysterious, I felt more like a sort of strength in her.
Yeah, so it really depends. Based on your story and what you're trying to tell, that's how you're going to shape the lighting. So I'm really giving you the tools, but as you say, because if we had her looking down a little bit more or had a hood over her head, she could be more mysterious, that kind of thing. So that would be a part of composition, which is what is in your frame. So I'm really trying to give you the tools so that you can use it and the knowledge to create those narratives and improve those narratives. So if I did a light that was completely top down, that would be even more mysterious because you're not really seeing her eyes. It's very shaded under her face. So that would give it an even more dramatic look versus a light from underneath, which they usually do like in scary movies where you have like the flashlight shining up on them face, that kind of thing.
Speaking about the top-down light, I know in The Godfather, the cinematographer purposely shot a lot of the scenes from the top so that you could see the skulls, or you could see like the outline of the skull and in the eyes, and it would not just add the mystery to it, but it also add the fear, especially on Don Corleone, who's just, this incredibly powerful character in the film, you know?
Definitely. So the cinematographer used light to better tell a story versus in, say, a Disney movie where the superhero is usually very evenly lit, and then when you go into the villain's lair, it's dark, and the light is usually from the ground up. It's all purposeful to create an emotion and to have you feel some type of way. So as I say, find your story first. What are your objective? What are you trying to tell your audience? What are you trying to get across? And then that way, the light, the lens choice, everything is going to be decided by what you're trying to get your viewers to feel. We'll finish up lighting in a second and we're going to take a break. Here are some examples of lighting. This here is a far side key. Let me come around so I can actually see. Oh, you're seeing Horacia. Thank you, Horacia. Oh, and don't worry if I forget you guys' names. Only know her name because I work with her. So here are some examples of lighting. This is a far side key because the camera is on this side and the light, main light, key light is on this side. This, I was showing the difference between hard light and soft light. This is lighting for products. We did a 3-light setup for this as well. We had a main key light, a fill light, and this sharp outline is basically the rim light, but we just angled it more to be a side light.
Yeah, Kavan, the lighting with the minister. That's basically flat lighting, right?
It's basically flat lighting.
Everything
is fully lit. As you can see, it's very even across their face. There's no real shadows. Yeah.
And would that be a more, like, generally more acceptable?
That is, in the corporate world, that is generally more acceptable.
Okay.
So to have, as I was showing you, like the far side lighting and having contrast on the face is usually not, I don't want to say frowned upon, but usually clients just want something clean that look like this. But it's up to you to advise them to say, well, I think your message needs to be more dramatic, so let's shoot it this way. Yeah.
With regards to the storytelling as well, maybe that's a point of them saying they have nothing to hide as well.
Yeah, so. Okay. That could be, they don't have nothing to hide. So that's bright, it's airy, it's everything is exposed. I think the background's a little overexposed. As I said, I never have no additional light. I have a question over here. Oh.
So you didn't use any lighting at all? It was just the sunlight?
Just the sun. We just diffuse the sunlight, yeah.
Okay.
Does the placement of the lights matter? Should it always be like this?
So the main reason why I placed this light 45 degrees to the side is because if it was dead on, it's going to make the face be very flat. There's no contrast, there's no shadows, not like that. So you want shadows because that is how you paint with light. It's not only where light is, where light isn't.
So can it be a case where the key light is where this?
Yeah, it can be,
is?
as in for this light, yeah, it could be flipped, it could be any way you want it. And what you want, so if it's something like a ring light, where you want to be right in front of it because that's how it's set up. But for something like this, you kind of want it off to the side to create shadows, to create contrast. But for like a ring light, if you're doing your vlogs or your makeup tutorials, that is a beauty light. You want it to be flat on your face, so that's why you have it right in front of you. Versus something like this, you have it to the side to create contrast and to create interest on the face. So that's why I have this here as well. On one thing, when you step off of the background a little bit now, like if you're shooting somebody, we don't need to see the shadow on the wall behind them. Add some depth to your shot. Step off of the background a little bit. We don't need to see that bright shadow on the back. Yeah, so that's a simple tip to make your shots look better. Add depth. You can add depth in many ways. One is to add actual physical depth. So have the person step off of the background that they're on, so that one, the background is more blurred and out of focus, and your subject is in focus and sharp. Two, you're not seeing that drop shadow on the wall that kind of gives amateur like you just set up in a room. And three, there's other ways to add depth with foreground elements, background elements. But yeah, an easy thing to do is just step off of the wall a little bit. Just come forward. So instead of shooting right up on the wall, you give them some depth so you're not seeing that shadow.
Yes, so I realize in most of your videos, especially as of recently, I'm trying to figure out if it is that the lighting is so good that it looks like AI, or what is it, the lighting, is it post-production? But most of the videos that you do recently, them look like AI.
All right, thank you. So recently, what has been a change with our production is we have a dedicated colorist. So a colorist is somebody that goes in and tweaks the colors, like we're doing a white balance and all of that. They move the hue, the saturation, everything. They are the person that is in charge of the look. So we have somebody that is dedicated to that will go through and color grade every single scene, versus what we're doing before where we kind of do a broad stroke and say, all right, this look good, whatever. We have somebody that's dedicated going through and doing. So like even this is not what it looked like coming out of the camera. We'll have an editing workshop next week. We have an editing workshop next week where we're going to go into these stuff on how you can make your post-production better, your color grading, that kind of thing. But yeah, this definitely never look like this coming out of the camera. Yeah.
I know you mentioned to step off of the background so you don't get the drop shadow. When it comes to like green screening, I know a lot of it is really dependent on, you know, where you put the subject after and post and all that. But how do you set up lighting? Would it be flat lighting for a green screen?
All right, so for a green screen, you want your green screen to be lit flat, because you don't want any shadows on your green screen, because in post-production, when you're keying is basically removing a specific color. When you're keying that green out, you want it to be as flat and as even as possible. So that's why in most situations, you're going to light the background, the green screen, separately from the subject. Because your subject can be lit in a dark cave, but the green screen is bright and even. So it really depends on where you're going to place the person after. So that's why pre-production is very important, which I'm going to get into after this, which is like how, when you have the story in your mind, what you do to tell it.
All right, yeah. My next question is, for a setup, in terms of like doing the subject sitting down on a chair or whatever with the background, and you're using the lighting, the background lighting to add the shadows so it can separate the background from the subject itself. Say for instance, the chair itself is like very close to that background.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use the background lighting to actually still create that separation effect, or does there actually need to be separation physically?
So ideally, physical separation is best, because your camera has a focal plane that you want to have on your subject, and the further you are away from the focal plane is the more blurred you get, or the more out of focus. So physical distance is best, but if you can't, what you can do is light. So if the person is sitting here, if I were to put a light right behind them and point it just at them, so don't hit the background in at all, then especially if it's colored, so like a warmer light, then as I say, you'd give them an outline which would separate them very clearly from the background. So that's a way how, if you're in a tight space, you can make this face still feel cinematic by adding a backlight that will separate the subject from the background.
Is it point that light right?
Point it directly at the person. Usually, if you can get it right above them and point it at the back of them head so it's not hitting them face, that's the best position for a backlight, or as he had called it earlier, a hair light. Because it's really supposed to give your hair and your outline a little more color. All right, we're taking a break after that last question. Or is that the last question again?
You actually came off the slide. I was going to ask you to just explain the setup for, I don't remember her name, but Blue, yeah.
The
What
setup
was
for
that?
this?
Yeah.
So the setup for this was we had two lights and negative fill. The key light was here, and it was through a softbox or a diffusion, or it was slightly off. So let's pretend like she is sitting in this chair here. The camera would have been on this side, so the light is further away from the camera. She's looking off to this side, so it feels like she's talking to an interviewer. And we had a backlight on her, as you can see here. We matched the backlight, so we had a background light as well. So this, there was no actual light here. We added a light here, but this light was not actually hitting the talent.
It wasn't what?
It wasn't hitting the talent. It wasn't on the talent.
Yeah.
So we added, so yeah, this is basically a practical light. So this is supposed to be a window on the outside. So we added a light here. It wasn't actually, I don't know if you can see from where you are, but there's some warm highlights on the back of her head, like the side of her head. We added that with an additional light. So that would be the hair light or the backlight here. This would be the background light. And then the key light was a little off frame here. Yeah, we have any more questions before we take the break? No, I think that's it. All right, you guys have a 15-minute break. You can mix and mingle and do anything. Oh, there's refreshments at the back as well if you need. We'll get back to movement after that. If you should use a tripod, a gimbal, or handheld, and then we'll run through that. All right, guys, we're starting back now. So I did say we're going to go over some core principles of videography. That's a whole workshop. We did lighting, we did story, we're going to go into movement and lack of movement as well. All right, so we're going to go into why a static shot might be used, why you might use a gimbal, why you might film handheld. So every movement should be motivated or have a purpose. So if you're just swinging the camera around, that's not a purpose. And all of that movement or lack of movement is going to be based on, again, your story. So what are you trying to tell? As I say, your story / your objective is the overarching. That is what is going to determine almost everything that you do in production. Using a tripod. That is probably the easiest thing you can think of. The most basic, well, probably not the most basic. Holding the camera in your hand is the most basic, but using a tripod like this is essential. And I've opted to use a tripod more times than not instead of handheld or some sort of stabilization because one, it have a whole lot more flexibility in post-production when you use a tripod, especially VFX. So if you use a tripod or a locked off shot, meaning the camera is not moving, it's locked, in visual effects, you have the room to do a lot more without doing camera tracking. So say you want to add an object in the background or you want to do a set extension, meaning widen the frame, it's a lot easier to do that with a static shot or a shot that you film on a tripod. One, it also helps to eliminate distraction. So you say you have an interview, you really don't want to have the camera in your hand shaking, that kind of take away from what the person is saying, it kind of take away from what's happening. I mean, if you're getting an interview on site and you have to hold it in your hand, that's fine, but what looks more professional is a static shot. So that way the camera becomes invisible. You're not focused on, the viewer isn't focused on, oh, who is shooting this? You're focused on what the person is saying. You're not distracted by the jitters in the hand, you're not distracted by the camera swaying, but you are really focused or zoomed in on what the person in the frame is saying. So that's another reason to use a tripod, and that makes your footage look professional. So even if you're doing like event coverage or somebody sending you on a job, having a tripod will elevate your work just that higher. So even if it's your phone, using a tripod for a locked off shot is more professional, or feels more professional because of the steadiness of it, and it's locked off. You have different moves that you can do on a tripod because it's not just static. So a locked off shot is if it's locked, you don't touch the camera, you just click record, you don't touch the camera again. That's a locked off shot. But you can do other moves with a tripod as well. You can pan, that is left to right. You can tilt, that's up and down. And so you're going to use each of these movements to help tell a story. So say you're following somebody, you're tracking somebody, you can pan with them as they walk to kind of show them exploring the landscape. You can tilt from, say that again? Oh no, so no, the pan in the iPhone that's short for panoramic. So that means it takes a almost, was it 180? It takes a large shot. So that's panorama. No. I mean, it's similar because it's going to make you, because if you open up your phone right now, the panorama on it has an arrow that's pointing, it's sending it to pan to the left. So it captures all of that information. Yeah, so it comes from the same, I guess, I don't know, the root word pan, which is you're turning horizontally. So you're going to use this to tell your story better. You can tilt if you're going to show from somebody's foot to them face, like you're revealing a character. Somebody step into the shot, you see them foot first and the camera tilts up and you see them head. So having a tripod, very important. You have different types of tripod. I'm not going into too much detail, but you have the standard tripod and you have like a fluid head. That is this. Call it a fluid head because there's some fluid in it to add dampening. So it makes the movement a lot smoother. So if I add a lot of pressure to the pan axis here, as you can see, the tripod is smoothly going around versus a tripod that's not a fluid head. It might be a little harder to get that dampened, smooth movement. So this is a good tripod is a good investment. This is not a cheap tripod, to be honest. But you have cheaper tripods that work, especially if you just need to lock off your camera and have it be stationary. Just get a tripod, it makes your work look a lot better. Oh, and for tripods like this is basically two different pieces to make one. So these are sold separately. This is the tripod head. So you have different tripod heads that have different abilities, different stuff. Some of them have dampening, counterbalance, stuff like that. And then these are the legs. So usually you can buy them separately, but they have the same mount. So this mount here would be universal, or you check the mount on your tripod to see if you can fit these legs. And then you have, so I might need legs that can go higher. I buy legs that can go higher, that kind of thing. But for the cheaper tripods, you don't have this, it's not able to separate, usually just one thing, which is fine. As I said, whatever you can afford to get the job done, but a good tripod will last you for years. If you can get it like second hand on eBay, that's where we got this, because this is a $2,000 tripod we got for like $6, which is a steal.
Oh, just one point to note, get a good tripod. The first camera I ever owned, which was I think a T7i at the time. The first time I used it outdoors, and the breeze blew it over, and the lens was completely ruined. So invest in a good tripod, or some weights.
Invest in a good tripod, or like a
weights.
sandbag to hold down the tripod. I mean, technically, just get a good tripod. Just get a good tripod. All right, so we're going to go into handheld movements, right? And why you would want to use handheld. What does the story call for it? Do you want the shot to feel... All right, so use handheld. How do I explain this? So run and gun action scenes are usually handheld because it adds a lot of energy to the shot. It adds a lot of emotion and it feels more connected. Run and gun. Yeah, so there's a term used to describe kind of like guerrilla filmmaking, like you just want to be quick, you just want to go and get some shots quick, that kind of thing. So one way you can make your handheld footage better is to add weight to your camera. So I'm going to go over a few tips. So, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me describe why we can use handheld first, and then I'm going to go into some ways to make handheld better. So your handheld footage don't look shaky and jittery and that kind of thing. So you want to use handheld, one, as I said, to add energy to your shot. So like in music videos, you have that flexibility to move the camera around. You get a whole lot of energy in the shot. Two could be more precise control of what you're looking at. Because with stabilization like a gimbal, those finer movements kind of a little harder to do. So if you need to be precise with your shots, handheld can be really good. Handheld is also good, as I said, for narrative work, like documentary. You want to feel like you are attached to this character, you're living with this character, you feel like you're a fly on the wall, following him. Handheld really gives that feel. I'm going to show you now some ways how you can make handheld footage look better. Because if you just take up your camera and point it, you're going to get some things called micro jitters. I don't know if you ever record something and if you shoot on your phone, you're probably not going to notice it because the iPhone has really good stabilization, so it's going to take out a whole lot of those jitters. But if you have a camera, especially a camera that doesn't have IBIS, which is in-body camera stabilization, your footage is going to look very shaky. Every little movement you make with your hand, you're going to pick it up. So if you have an iPhone, you probably don't notice it, but if you shoot on like a DSLR or mirrorless camera, you might notice that your footage is a little bit shaky. And your first thought might be, oh, let me go get a gimbal. Gimbal is not always the choice, and since recently for the past 3 years, I've barely used a gimbal. Only for specific use cases, I've been using a gimbal. No shade to Ashley, because she asked me which gimbal to get, but I think she needed what she wanted for.
I just bought my gimbal, mind you, based off his recommendations. So
Yeah.
I don't know why am I tell you all this now.
But so what we can do to make handheld footage look a little better is add weight to your camera. Contrary to popular belief, you want your camera to be heavier because that added weight will add inertia, so the camera will not have those micro jitters. I should have added footage here to show you the difference with a camera that doesn't have weight on it versus a camera with weight, because I'm not going to take off all of this to show you without weight. But let me show you the video feed of this. So when you add weight to your camera, so this is it. So, and I'm going to go into the techniques as well that I'm doing now to get it to feel stable versus when it's lighter, it's easier to be moved around. But when it have weight on it, so that's, you can add a V-mount battery, you can add a cage on your camera, you can add a top handle, that kind of thing to make your camera a little bit weightier because it does help with it. It does help with the handheld footage to make it less shaky, as I said, because yes, we want the feeling of handheld. We don't want a stabilizer like a gimbal or a Steadicam. We want it to be handheld footage, but we don't want it to be super shaky and have those micro jitters that aren't pleasing at all. Our next one, like you saw me do a while ago, is lock in the camera. So the more points of contact you have on your camera is the better, because it adds to that stabilization. So now I have 1 point of contact, my right hand, 2 points of contact, and when you lock in, you lock your elbows and you hold the camera to your chest, you add a 3rd point of contact. So there's also this thing called a cine saddle, where it's like a crossbody bag, and you can rest the camera on it, and that's a 3rd point of contact. But without that, this is 3 points of contact, and I'm going to switch back to so look at the difference with me trying to film with one hand versus me locking it. Oh, hold on. Let me do actual one hand. Oh, shit, I thought I gotta zoom up on it. So this is me trying to keep the camera stable with one hand versus locking it in. And with this is good for if you are pretending to be a tripod. You don't have a tripod, you keep your legs wide so you can use your hips to pan. And you really want to move from your hips. You don't want to add any bending from your knees. Yeah, it's the same thing if you don't have the cage. It's the same thing. You can hold the phone or the camera and it's the same thing. But the more points of contact, the better. So if you can have 2 hands at the camera and it's on your body, that's 3 points of contact. You get better handheld footage that way. We're at a next step to that, something, a next layer to that, to not, hold on, I think it's coming up, yeah.
And position 1 and action.
So I'm going to show you now, this video is behind the scenes, thank you. This video is behind the scenes of a short film that we're filming in the company. As I say, I'm CEO of Kinematic Studios, a production company. Every month, one of our employees comes up with a concept and has to produce it within the month. This is behind the scenes of one of that, and I'm going to show you how the footage looks after that. Don't mind the color grading, it isn't finished yet, they're still working on it, but I decided to bring this footage here today for this workshop.
And speed, and position 1 and action. And position 2. And position 3. And 1 now, see side. And cut.
Give it a second. Hold on. I'm not sure why the video not. Okay, see it here now. So as you can see, it's still handheld, but the movement isn't jittery, it's not shaking, it's yeah, so that is the shot that we got in the behind the scenes a while ago. What I did and what you should do, especially if you have a rig that you built out, you're going to add a little bit of movement to it. So pointer handle is not to feel like a tripod. So even though this is, let me switch back to 2. So even though this is stable, you want to add a little bit of a sway in the movement so that the inertia that camera keeps, the inertia that the camera has, you keep it. So you want that movement to be like a small sway. They call it the cinematographer sway. Sometimes if you just do it with 2 hands, and it covers the micro jitter because you're using that inertia to keep the camera moving. But you're not swaying like that. It's just literally, you're just not trying to stand as still as possible because that will add, you're going to tension up your muscles and you're going to add that micro jitter that we're talking about. So when you relax your muscles and you move a little bit with the sway, we get that footage. And as I say, it covers up the micro jitters. Another important thing for movement is use your knees.
How would this work for like an event? Say the stage is a little bit higher and you're capturing the performance.
All right, so in that case, if the stage is higher and you're capturing a performance, really and truly, if you can get a tripod, you want to put on a tripod.
I was
and get it
wondering
up.
what would be the best
So if you can get a
option?
tripod, you want to put on a tripod. If not, and you have to hold it by your hands, you don't want to be fully extended because that's going to induce fatigue very quickly. Your hands are going to start shaking. So ideally, you want to keep the camera tucked to your body. 1 is a natural way to hold items like this. It keeps it steady. And 2, you get fatigue a lot. You don't get fatigue as quickly. So, but if you have to hold it up like this, ideally, you want to try and keep it steady, like your phone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, you want to have it on a tripod, but if that's the only option that you have, then just hold it steady. As I say, your phone has excellent stabilization in it, so you're not going to see those micro jitters I was talking about.
I'm very shaky, you know. I say shaky, I mean
Then
shaky,
invest in a good
shaky.
tripod then.
So, but can a gimbal work in that instance?
I'm going to go over gimbals. So.
Because I know you're not the gimbal. So
No, I gotta go over it last. So what I was saying about your knees now is, if I switch back to 2, you want to use your knees as the point of movement. If you can get a good steady base, and so we're filming. I can just shift your stuff over. Let me put it on this desk here. So you're filming this water here, right? And I know that the talent or the whoever I'm filming is going to grab the water. I'm just going to ask you to reach for the water. And I want to push into it. It's easier to move with your knees to get into it like that versus taking a step forward. That's going to add that. So look at the difference where, let me open up my, all right, close on my eyes. So look at the difference of, and reach for the water versus me stepping into it, him trying to get the water. So you want to have a strong, sturdy base that you can move either side to side with or front and back. So you really want to use your knees because when you now start introducing steps into it, that adds another level of shakiness or another level of chaos that you really want to minimize as much as possible. And that same concept, I'm going to get into it when we're going over gimbals. So your lens choice is very important as well, because wider lenses are more forgiving with camera shake. And what I mean by that, so lenses, I'm going to go into that in further detail further on, but lenses they have focal length. That is basically how wide or how tight a lens is. The lower the number is the wider the lenses, the higher the number, the tighter the lenses. So a wider lens will give you better handheld footage because it eliminates more of that micro jitters because you have a wider field of view versus like a telephoto lens that is a very tight lens. So say, you've ever seen those sports photographers on a really long lens, and it's like I'm seeing way at the end of the room. I'm at the end of the room and I can see way at the end of the room. And then there's a whole lot of like, you can see the bouncing of the camera, you can see it moving up and down or jittering. That's because the tighter focal length is harder to mask that micro jitter. So if you have a wider focal length like that, that's at 24. There's 16 as well. There's a wide range of focal lengths. The wider it is, the better for handheld footage, but it might, yeah?
So would you say using a lens like that takes some actual real skill to use?
Say that again?
Using a lens like that, it actually takes skills instead of like something that can stabilize it or
Yeah, so for most telephoto lenses, they have stabilizers in it. So they have lens stabilizers in it, but some don't. So that's why if you have a focal lens, if you have a telephoto lens that doesn't have stabilization in it, your footage is going to be very shaky unless it's on a tripod.
So it doesn't necessarily take skill?
I mean, it does. So if you do have lens, even if you do have lens stabilization in it, you have to know how to hold the lens correctly. As I said, the more points of contact, the better.
Okay.
So wider lenses are more forgiving for handheld footage, and tighter lenses you kind of want to stay away. So I don't go over 50 millimeters. I don't hold that in mind. Like if it's an 85, I can put that on a gimbal or on a tripod. But like 35 to 50, 16 to 50, I can do handheld footage with that comfortably without feeling like the footage can come out too shaky. Hold on, let me make this load. Give me a second, I'm trying to get this video to load. So this is another clip like the last one, the same passion project that one of our teammates are doing, showing the behind the scenes versus the actual shot. All right, it don't look like it wants to load. But, so this point is about moving with intention. So it's good to know, especially if you're doing a narrative piece, good to know the actor's movement before you even take up the camera so you know how you're going to be following that person. As I say, you really want to avoid actual steps. And then in the next slide, I'm going to tell you how, if you have to physically move in space and you're not just moving like this, how you can do that more effectively. So if you, the best thing is if you don't have to move in space, you have a good stance, you bend your knee, and you get your shots like this. You rock a little bit so that the camera's inertia follows you and you don't get in that micro jitters. But if you have to move in space, so that comes in tandem with using a gimbal. Let me rebalance this. Anybody here know what a gimbal is? So a gimbal is a type of stabilizer. So what a stabilizer does is it reduces or it compensates for movement in one direction or another. This is a 3-axis stabilizer. Stabilizes this axis, this axis, this. So these 3 axes, roll, tilt, and pan. So it stabilizes, meaning it gets rid of that micro jitters. So let me So this is the Ronin 2. So this is a gimbal and the camera is on the gimbal. So it is effectively getting rid of all of the micro jitters in my hand because as you can see, as you can see when I'm shaking it or twisting it, it's keeping it steady for the most part. The downside of a gimbal is it's only 3 axes. So this axis is not stabilized. As you can see, I can freely move it up and down, which in your footage, if you have the gimbal going up and down like this, it doesn't look as professional. So I'm going to show you a way that is very popular in the industry to stabilize this axis here, which is called the ninja walk. You want to walk heel to toe and bend your knees and kind of go in a crouch stance like this to eliminate that additional movement that you would get if you just walk with the gimbal. If you can just focus on even like this red dot on the lens, look at the path of it, how it goes up and down while I'm walking with it, versus doing the ninja walk, it stays a little bit more steady. Yeah, definitely. And so all I'm doing here is I'm bending my knees and moving heel toe, heel toe. So if you ever go to an event and you see those videographers walking like this, trust me, they're doing something. It's not just because they want to be weird. It's actually stabilizing this axis here. You want to keep your hands locked in. And as you can see, it's a lot more stable than if I was just to walk with it. Yeah, so that is what was supposed to be happening here, but I don't know why the video not playing. Tips on using your gimbal. 1, ensure it's properly balanced so you don't stress the motors. The motors are doing the work of balancing out the action. So if it's moving to the right, it will balance it to the left. So if it's not balanced, balance meaning, turn off the gimbal now. So the gimbal is currently off. So this is how a balanced gimbal should look. It shouldn't be tilting forward or to the left or to the right when it's balanced because the center of gravity is in line with the center column. So that way you know that when the gimbal is actually on and the motors are working, it's doing less work than if it's off balance and the motor have to be compensating for that imbalance. So now the gimbal is balanced. I don't know if I need to go into detail on how to balance it or, yeah? Okay, all right. So for gimbals like this or for a phone gimbal, you're able to lock the axes. So what we're going to do, we're going to work one axis at a time. We're going to lock all that axis. So every axis is locked except for this one here. What you want to do is you're going to place this base plate onto your camera. So most cameras, I think all cameras, have a screw on the bottom of it for either your tripod or any accessories. If you don't have a cage like I have here, you can just screw it directly into the camera. And then that will determine how you place it on the gimbal. And there's a latch on the back. So once you put it in, there's a latch on the back that you close. And then now we're going to stabilize this axis first. I can't remember what it is. There's pan, tilt, and roll. I don't remember this one. I think this is a tilt axis, obviously. It's tilting up and down. So you want to adjust it front and back so that it's not doing this. You don't want your gimbal to fall forward like that. You don't want your gimbal to fall back like that. You want it to be straight, balanced. So there's this little wheel. Some of your gimbals might not have it, but there's a little wheel here that you can use to do like micro adjustments to get it to fall right in place where it's not tilting forward or back. And then you can tighten that axis. And then you also want to point it up, and it should be able to stay here without dropping forward. So we're going to adjust this arm here. You can loosen it, and then you're going to just shift it into position until it's not dropping back or forward. Then you can tighten it, and then that is going to throw off this axis a little bit, so you're just going to add some micro adjustments again. And that should be about good. You want to tilt back a little bit. And then you can lock this axis, and then now we're going to balance this one. Because as I say, having a properly balanced gimbal makes a world of a difference. One, your gimbal lasts longer because your motors aren't too stressed. And two, the footage looks better because it's actually doing how it's supposed to be. It's actually working how it's supposed to be. So as you can see, it is off because it's tilting that side. We want it to be dead center. So we're going to adjust this arm here.
All right, quick question while you're making that adjustment. Different gimbals have different weight limits. This is something that you need to take into consideration when you're buying a gimbal. My question, let's say, for argument's sake, me never read what the weight limit for my gimbal when I buy it, and my camera is heavier than that. Will that affect my ability? It shouldn't happen, you know, but will that affect my ability to get it to balance on the gimbal?
So that will do one or two things. One, it will either not work, and your gimbal just say it's too heavy and the motor's just not going to be able to stabilize it, just vibrates. Or two, it will work, but your gimbal have to work extra hard to keep it stable. And one, you burn out your motors, or two, it just dies a lot quicker.
All right, so
but ideally, as you had mentioned, you want to ensure that the weight load or the payload of the gimbal is enough to manage your camera. So most gimbals like this one, I think this manages up to 5 kilograms, which is 10 point something pounds, which camera is well under 10 pounds. We have bigger gimbals that can manage higher weights and payloads.
And take into consideration the weight of your lens as well.
Yes.
That's important.
So not just the camera, the lens, everything on it. Even if I add, like, so say if I was to put a mic on the top of the camera, I want to have the camera fully built out before I balance it so that I'm actually balancing for the accessories that will be on the camera. So if I balance it now and then I put on a mic, it might throw off the center of gravity and then it won't be balanced anymore. All right, hold on. So that was 2 out of the 3 axes. We're going to do the third one now, which if you tilt it forward, it's not supposed to go to the left or to the right. So you have to adjust this one down here now. This one a little stiff. So that's it. It's not supposed to go to the left or to the right when you tilt it forward like that. So this gimbal, so I'm used to a gimbal that will automatically unlock all of the axes, but this one doesn't do it, so you have to unlock them when you turn the gimbal on, and then now this is balanced. Yep. There are specific use cases you should use a gimbal. Definitely. If you're doing like real estate, you want a really smooth shot, use a gimbal. If you're doing probably like music videos, you want the camera to feel a certain kind of way, you want it to feel fluid, you use a gimbal. If you're doing special narrative work, you want to use a gimbal. And a gimbal is just one type of stabilization. You have other stabilizations. You have something called Steadicam, which is like a gimbal, but you have an arm that comes out that stabilizes this axis as well. So the same Ninja Walk that I had, it stabilizes that. You have Easy Rig, that's basically something you put on your back that takes the weight of the camera off of your arms and puts it on your back because it adds that tension to the camera, so you're no longer holding it with the arms, but the weight goes to your back. You have other forms of stabilization, but the gimbal is one of the most accessible one and probably the most known.
Can you touch on like using your phone with the gimbal? Because I feel like specifically for the persons who's planning to use their iPhone, they would probably just want a little bit more.
Okay, so for phone gimbals, It's a little different. You most likely don't have to go through all of that because the weight capacity of the payload that it can manage is a lot heavier than your actual smartphone is. So the few phone gimbals that I've used, there was no real balancing. You just put the phone in and it just works because the motors are powerful enough to compensate for whatever weight the phone is, because phones don't get that heavy. But there are a few that you might have to do that same kind of fine adjustments on the different axes to get it to be stabilized. But most phone gimbals, you just put your phone in it and you're good to go. But the same techniques apply where you do the ninja walk so you can get more fluid motion. When you're using a gimbal, it follows your wrist movement. So if you want to pan left, you're going to twist your wrist in or twist your wrist out to pan right. So that way, you're not turning your body with the gimbal. You can move the gimbal with your wrist. It's really a lot of your wrist and trying to keep that, as I said, that axis stabilized by doing the ninja walk. Mm-hmm.
What would be the best gimbal for a phone? Like, which one would you prefer?
So it depends on your budget. So you have gimbals that have light on it and come with tracker and all of that, and it's more expensive, and then you just have a rudimentary gimbal that will just stabilize your phone for cheaper. So it really depends on what you need. Zhiyun has some good gimbals, DJI has some good gimbals. You can check out brands like that. Mm-hmm. But in terms of what's best is really use case, because there's no really camera that's best, there's no gimbal that's best, it's what's best for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would have to take some personal research to see what works for your situation. Any other questions before we go on to sound? Nope. All right. So sound is.
I don't know if we skipped lens choices. Did we speak about that?
So I'm going to go back to that like in more detail later.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I really just touched on was that a wider lens makes handheld footage look less shaky versus a tighter lens. But I'm going to go into actual lens choices further down. Sound now. Just give me a second. You can't have a good video with bad sound. That's just the end of it. You can't have a good video with bad sound. So the persons that are recording on your phone at events or stuff like that, get one of those mics that can plug into the camera and you can get clear sound, because that will take your work up to a whole next level. You can't have a good video with bad sound. That's just what it is. Your video can be grainy, it can be pixelated, and people will watch it if the sound is good. If you have terrible sound, it's clipping. As we can explain what that is, it's distorted, the sound is chipping in and out. It's a lot harder to watch. That's just how it is. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. So you have a lot of smartphone mics that you can get now, especially in this day and age, that you literally just plug it into the charging port of your phone, whether it's Lightning or USB-C. You're so fast at going through them. You just, you can plug it directly into your phone, and you have a receiver, you have a transmitter and two receivers, and then that way you can get clean audio into your phone. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Because sound is just as or more important than video. So this is something that we use very often. This is a wireless microphone. Why it's wireless is because the transmitter and the receiver are two separate pieces. So it can transmit the audio signal over distance. Usually you don't want to go more than 100 feet because they start chipping in and out, because this is not radio, it's not a radio. It's 2.5 gigahertz. So what you want to do is, if it's in a room like this mic will pick up anywhere. That's the mic that I have on right now. That's going to the live stream in there. I'm going to go into more detail about what those stuff are. But this is what I was explaining. There are mics like this on the market that you can just plug it into the bottom of your phone, and then wireless, you can give this to somebody and do an interview with them, and then they speak into this mic, and the audio is clean. Because the mic in your phone is picking up everything. It's picking up you behind the camera, it's picking up the person in front of you, it's picking up the person to the left, to the right. It's capturing everything, because that's what the phone mic is supposed to do. This is a lot more directional. So it will only pick up the person's voice or what's behind them if they point it to themselves like this. Yes, you'll get some background noise or if the traffic is loud or whatever, but it's a lot better than just pointing your phone at somebody. So here are a few terms that you need to know. audio levels, so that's how loud your sound is. It's measured in decibels or dB. You usually want your sound to rest at -12 to about -6. So 0 is when it starts to clip. Clipping, that's the next term, that's when it gets too loud or distorted. I don't know if you've ever recorded something and they scream and then like you just hear it's, yeah, should I get a, yeah, you hear it like it's screeching, you hear it's clipping. That's the term that they use to describe when audio is too loud. And gain is basically the input volume. So how much the mic boosts the signal, so I can turn up the gain. So if you see on this mic here, and you're not going to see it, but you're able to turn up the gain. So if the person too low, you can turn it up to get a better loudness or a better volume. Mono/stereo. So that is used to describe the channels. These microphones record to 2 channels, the left channel and the right channel. You ever watch a movie and like you're hearing the sound on the left side and you hear it on the right side? That is somebody panning the different channels. So if somebody says they're recording stereo audio, that means they're recording to 2 different channels, which is the left and the right, versus mono, which is 1 channel, which is just the audio itself. So what's good with stereo audio, as I said, these come with 2 receivers. You can have 2 persons have an interview and they record it to the left channel and to the right channel. And so when you go into post-production, you can separate those channels and then say somebody was whispering and somebody was shouting, you can manage the levels that way. Or if you do it mono, you don't have the time to in post-production, you do it mono and you have the interview same way, the audio will be both mixed into 1 channel. But this, something like this, it's relatively inexpensive. You have cheaper models. This is the DJI 2. You have cheaper models that you can get pretty decent sound, especially for social media. You can get good sound from this. If a professional sound mixer heard me say that, they would say I'm telling lies, but you can get decent sound from this. But sound is a whole other department on its own, and people have lifelong careers in just the sound department. So you have different types of sound. You have dialogue. That's me. I've been doing a whole lot of dialogue up here. Ambient sound, so that's like the AC. You hear the AC in the back, or like traffic on the road. That's like sounds in the background or sounds that make up a scene. You have sound effects. So like you swipe your hand and you hear a whoosh, or you hear a thud or something like that. Those additional sounds that you add, those are sound effects. You have music. Everybody knows what music is. And you have voiceover. There's like a narration. You usually have professional voiceover artists doing those narrations. So in the workshop next week, when I go into post-production and editing, I'm going to go into how you layer these sounds to get a full sounding experience. But for right now, I'm just glazing over it and touching it so that you know what these things are. You have multiple types of mics, lots of mics. Just if you think about how many cameras there are and the different types of cameras, there's just as many mics. You have the 2 main mics that we are going to be using or talking about are, or like in our industry, is the lavalier mic, like the one that I showed you a while ago. Give me a second. And then a shotgun mic. So the difference between a lav and a shotgun mic is, one, the lav is very, let me not take this off, let me show you. So the difference between the lav or lavalier, lav is short for lavalier. The difference between a lavalier and a shotgun mic is the lavalier, you place it on your subject, usually your actor, your talent, and you're able to pick up voices right here. So if Akeem speaks now, his voice is not going to be picked up in my lav because it's here for me. But if I connect Akeem to his own lav, then the live stream would be able to hear him as well. So I usually use it for interviews, or actors use it on sets where you're not able to get a boom mic in a shot. So you can still get the audio of them speaking from a far distance. And then the shotgun mic is very, very directional. It rejects sound from the left, the right, and most sound from behind it, and it picks up most sound in front of it. So you really, if I'm pointing it at you, it's going to pick up your voice. If I'm pointing it at him, it's going to pick up his voice, that kind of thing. I mean, it's not a laser. It still has a chordioid pattern, which is basically the shape of the sound that it. So imagine a funnel. So there is a specific shape that different mics have. So this shape is, imagine a funnel this way. So it goes out like that and it funnels it into this way. And then imagine for a lav mic, it's a circle because it's picking up everything around it. So that's the difference. If I want to reject a lot of background noise, I'm going to put the back of the shotgun mic to the noise and then point this to the talent. Yeah.
All right, quick one. What's the different use cases for the wireless mic versus the lavalier mic? Or are they the same thing?
So the lavalier mic, so this is what you're seeing here pinned on to me. This by itself is a microphone, right? But it's not being powered or recorded into anything. That is where this comes in handy, which is the receiver. So this takes the signal and sends it to the transmitter, and that is how it's monitored. So the lavalier mic by itself doesn't do anything. So it needs to be paired with either the receiver, or you can plug it straight into the camera, technically, because it has this same, it's a 3.5 millimeter jack. As you can see, this is like your headphone jack, your microphone jack. It can plug directly into the camera if you want, but that defeats the use case of having it on the person. That means the person will have to be right here in front of the camera for it to be plugged in. So usually you want to plug it into a wireless receiver like this, or sometimes they have like body packs that they put the mic behind them and it's transferred over radio. Any other questions?
I was just stating something. So I was saying normally when I'm recording, what I used before I got mics, what I used, sometimes I still do it, what I used was the voice memo on the, like on the phone, and I kind of just, you know, and then when you do editing, you just kind of put the voice memos with the videos.
Yeah, so what you can do to get that, so...
Sometimes it sounds clearer than the mic to me.
Well, I don't know if clearer, but...
Sometimes.
Yeah, but no, so the voice memo app, I don't know what it is, what the iPhone does, but the voice memo app is better than the camera app in terms of recording audio. It is, so a lot of times if I'm doing, well, when I used to do voiceovers and stuff like that for videos, I would ensure I'm in a room that is very quiet. It has a lot of furniture around, because as you can hear right now, if I clap, you hear a lot of reverb. You hear the delayed clap after I clapped? That is an echo or reverb. You don't want that in your sound. You want your sound to sound as clean as possible. So how you can reduce that is you can get blankets. You can cover yourself with some blankets so that will absorb the sound so it's not being reflected on you. So say if you go into your closet and add some blankets and you record, you can get a nice clean sound even with your phone microphone. Mic placement. The closer to the audio source, the better. You don't want to point it directly at somebody's mouth. Ideally, you want to point it at them diaphragm and them chest in this area here, this cavity here, because you get a better audio. That way it sounds more fuller. If you point directly to the mouth, it's a little nasally, it's a little tinny. So you really want, this is the area. So like if you have a boom mic, this ideally is the area you want to put it. So that's why lavs are usually placed here as well. You get a fuller sounding voice, especially for dialogue. All right, yes. We have another 15-minute break. Yeah, because it look like I don't want to sleep. Take a 15-minute nap and we'll come back. Don't worry, I'll wake you up when you're ready. You ready? All right. All right, I know I've been preaching story from the beginning, so now I'm going to give you some practical tips that I use every time I go on a shoot to tell a story. Whether if it's event coverage or I'm doing something narrative, I always have this in the back of my head so I don't get confused. So this is really my playbook to being or feeling confident going on a shoot, even if I'm not sure exactly how it's going to play out, because I know I have this in the back of my head that I will be able to get these shots to get a good story. I'm just going to show you a quick sequence of a project we did for the Ministry of Health. No, there's no audio. Sorry, there's no audio. Yeah, it really is. All right. Say that again? No. So there is audio. I don't think I captured it when I was doing the screen recording earlier. So there is audio. There's a voiceover. There's a narrator saying that this program is for persons with NCDs and the government help, yada. Not important. But, so that was driving the story. But the visuals, as you could tell, was somebody waiting at a doctor's office, looking at a pamphlet. She get called into the office, speaks with the doctor. Doctor hands her a paper. She's now signed up for the program, and it goes to another sequence of kind of the same thing happening, but this time instead of a private institution, it's at a public institution. The narrator says that, so that would give it a little bit more context, but I'm going through the series of shots. So as you can see here, this is the wide shot. One of my favorite shots, is it not showing it on the screen? Oh yeah, one of my favorite shots is the establishing shot. This shows you the scene. It gives context as to where we are, who is here, what is happening. So, like most TV shows, think about like All That Matters. When they go to a new scene, you usually see like the outside of the building first. Like if they move from their house to like the school, you see the outside of the school, they hear the school bell, and then you go inside after that. That is establishing that we've one, changed scene, and two, this is the new location. So it don't have to be nothing long, it don't have to be nothing complicated, it's just something that is usually, as stated there, wide, so you're getting a lot of information, and it's establishing things. So this one is establishing three things. One, that she's here waiting, because as in the sequence, she walked past her to sit down, so she's here already waiting. Two, she's at a doctor's office. And three, it shows the composition. This is the same thing. As I said, in the piece, it was showing the difference between public partnerships and private partnerships. So this is a private doctor's office, this is a public doctor's office. Same thing here. You can clearly see from just this frame what is happening. This is a nurse or some medical professional speaking to a patient inside a hospital or some sort of medical room. Same thing here, she's in a waiting room. All of this is established with the wide shot. That is the shot I try to get every single time, everywhere I go, especially for event coverage. So if you have banners on the outside, if you have the entrance to the event, you want to capture that as the establishing shot. And usually when you're editing, you want to show that first or early or at the beginning so that you can establish where you are. As I say, I'm teaching you the rules, but you can break them because you can do it in a different order where you start off with a medium shot or even a close-up so that you create mystery. With a string of close-up shots to show, say like somebody's eye, somebody's hand, somebody looking at a watch, and then you reveal that they're waiting at a doctor's office is the opposite of what you could do. So I'm giving you the tips and tricks and you can find your way how to use it, yeah.
That could also work in the case like just looking at the watch and everything. timing pass, for example, if they were like their wife is pregnant, having a baby or so, you could have that and it actually reveal what's happening.
Actually reveal what's happening. So the opening shot, the wide shot is the establishing shot. So that is giving a lot of context. The medium shot, you usually use this for your characters or for dialogue. You use this to capture a person's face, facial expression, usually their reaction to something. You want a medium shot. A medium shot is basically up to the bust and a little bit of headroom, so about this frame in here. As you can see here is another medium shot, and a medium shot to show that she was being called by the doctor and the doctor is ready to go in. It shows the subject in their environment. It's great for dialogue or action. And what I do a lot is, after I go through the next shot, I'm going to tell you what I do. Over the shoulder. So this, or OTS, this is a shot that is, I use a lot of times to show, paired with that medium shot, what that person is looking at. So like how we established that she's looking at the pamphlet, we showed the pamphlet over her shoulder. What it does is it immerses the viewers to make them feel like you're looking at what they're looking at. So in this case, her shoulder is kind of out of the frame, but you can tell it's looking from her point of view. No, this is over the shoulder, yeah. And then same here where, I think I did crop it a little bad here, but a piece of her shoulder was in the frame to show that the camera is looking over her shoulder. I use these 3 shots all the time. Establishing shot, focus on the person, what is the person doing, and how is the person reacting to what they're doing. So those 4 shots, if your clients are, let's get some B-roll, just have in your minds, all right, we need to get these 4 shots. So the 4 shots that I know that I get every single time I go on a shoot is is wide to establish, medium to establish character, over the shoulder to show what they're doing, and then a reverse is like a face shot to show their reaction to what they're doing. So like if you have a dog groomer, I had a shoot one time, Renee's Pet Palace in Portmore, where we're showing that they did pet grooming services. Wide shot to show the place, medium shot to establish that she's a groomer, close up on her hands to show what she's doing, and then a reverse shot of her face to show her reaction. She's smiling, she's happy. So that works a lot of times. If you're at a doctor's office, you can get a wide shot of the office, you get a close-up of their face, you get a medium shot of their face to establish she's a doctor, like with a stethoscope or something. You get a close-up of what they're writing or what they're doing with their hands, and you get a reverse of their face to show their emotion. That is, it works all the time. If you...
So the reverse on the face ideally should be a close-up?
So the reverse is ideally a close-up or a medium facing the person. Like, so the medium that I showed earlier is kind of off to the side. So the reverse is kind of, imagine the camera coming around a little bit more. So they're not looking at the camera now, but it's more showing their emotion from a more straight on angle. Let me show you actually with the camera here. I think my V-mount died. Give me 1 second, let me switch this out. Where do I put the next V-mount? And further in, well, closer to the end of this, we're wrapping up in the next 45 minutes or so. I'm going to share with you my personal resources that I use for all of my shoots. I'm going to give you tips and tricks that I've gathered over the years of doing this. As I say, it's about 8-9 years I've been doing this for. And I think that will be very helpful to give you like a cheat sheet, like a jump start if you're just starting out. Just give me 1 second, I just started back up this. So I can show you in real time the different shots that I'm talking about. Oh, I'm not sure if I had explained, but how we're able to see the video feed on the TV is we're using a wireless transmitter. Just like the mic, it's transmitting the signal wirelessly, but this is for the video feed. So it comes through the monitor, goes into the wireless transmitter, and then it's plugged into the TV at the back. That's how you guys are seeing the feed. Is it up now on the screen? Yeah, all right. So I'm going to just run through with you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So this would be the wide shot. Persons at the Spark series are engaged, sitting down. right? This would be the medium shot. So you can just pretend like you're focusing on, to establish that this character we're going to focus on. This is Akeem. He looks like he's writing. What is he writing? I'm interested in to see what he's writing. We're going to go over the shoulder. And we're going to see what he's writing. And then, and then now the shot that I was talking about is reverse. You can still look out and pretend like you're writing. It's more like this. And he's happy, he's smiling that he's at the... So those are the 4 shots that I like to string together. That is easy to remember, and it creates a quick story. So even event coverage that we do a lot, where a client has, them having a launch event or them put a whole heap of money into some new product and they want to do event coverage. This is what sets us apart from just going and capturing what's there on the day, telling a story. Being able to give the viewers the experience of being there, of having characters that you can fall in love with. These usually like influencers. You want to do that with persons that are already known. Yeah? Can you give me the mic, please?
I mean, like you give a breakdown of how you tell, you know, how you talk about when you do an idea, but like when it comes to like your creative thoughts, things where you get like, is it just flow to you? Like you just get them, like you just
to
come
me,
to like yeah.
I gotta go through that later down. That's what I gotta break down in detail. But this is how I kind of contain that, so I don't feel anxious going on shoots anymore. Especially like event coverage. One time I was like, oh, what do I capture? What do I capture? From a reach, I just put on my bag and get the banners outside. I get the setup, get the establishing shot. Go in, find the audio person, connect to them audio, and then ensure that I can have a talk with an influencer or the CEO or the marketing manager, somebody that can speak to the camera and give me some sort of narration for the event. And then I ensure that I get a lot of faces, a lot of reactions. Usually you want people to be smiling, happy, that kind of thing. For video, it's a little different from photos. Photos, you can pose them and say, hey, you smile at the camera. Video, you kind of want to feel like a fly on the wall for most cases. So I ensure, I see that this person is very animated. She's been animated the whole event. I'm going to stay here and lay wait until you start smiling. Capture that shot, I good. I'm going to see she laughing, I get that shot, I move on to our next one. I know she loves clap out hell. So as soon as the person says, oh, we're introducing the new speaker, I'm zooming on her so I can get her clapping. Those are the shots that you go into the event coverage knowing that you need to get. And then yes, every event is different, but once you have the framework that I'm trying to give you here, you know that you can just go and go get those shots and piece together that story in post-production. There's also over the shoulder, as I said, and then the cutaways, like insert shots, these are like close-ups sometimes. For another break? For this, okay. So there's that, like, you can do cutaways or like close-up stuff that kind of give more context. So as he had mentioned earlier, probably a cutaway to the watch to show that, oh, she's been waiting a long time, or a cutaway to the receptionist or something that is in the same scene or in the same story or the same context that adds more context to it. So in this case, under, I don't know if you can see it here, but it says public-private partnership program. That is basically what the whole video is about. So just to show the stamp, to show that it's official, that kind of thing, that's why I cut away to that. Gear rundown. The best camera is the one that you have on you, right? So instead of fussing about what's the best camera to get, you need to shoot some content, shoot the content with your phone, instead of waiting 3 weeks to get a camera. That is my philosophy. The best camera is the camera that you have on you, right? So the camera, as I had mentioned earlier, just like every single thing, there's no perfect camera, there's no perfect mic. But what's perfect for you might not be perfect for Tony. Tony is doing real estate. She might need a gimbal and a camera and a wide lens. You're doing sports photography. You might need a camera that can shoot pictures very quickly. You might need a long lens. It depends on your purpose. And that comes back to the story. What are you trying to tell? You're not going to shoot a real estate shoot with a very tight lens because you're only going to get a very small amount of the room. Real estate, you want the place to feel big. You get a wide lens to give that kind of vastness of it. So the camera, I can't give you recommendations until you tell me what you want it for. So if you ask me what camera is the best camera, I'm going to say your phone. What camera is the best camera to shoot real estate? Probably a hybrid camera like the A7 IV, where you can do photos and videos. What's the best camera to do sports photography? Probably a camera with, you can do 4K 120 like the A7S III or whatever it is, you get me? So it depends on what you need a camera for. So that is where your personal research needs to come in. Think about it. Why do I need this camera? And then Google it. Google what is the best camera for this situation.
What would you recommend for low lights?
So for low light, the Sony line of cameras, they have very good low light capabilities because most of them have this thing called dual native ISO, which basically means your native ISO, as I said, the higher your ISO goes, the more grainy the picture gets. They have two bases of that, so it basically resets. So you go from 800, it's clean, there's no noise introduced, and then it resets at 12,800. So Sony cameras have that feature which makes them very good for low light. Full frame cameras are very good for low light because the sensor is a lot bigger, so you're able to capture more light on the sensor. So something like the A7 IV is good for low light, something like a FX3 is good for low light. Any full frame camera with dual native ISO is really good for low light. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone ask me specifically what camera I would recommend for what? Good?
Social media. Most times I use my phone, but I want to invest in the camera. Which camera would you suggest for that?
All right, so now that rolls into budget and price point. So if you're doing social media and you're doing videos like capturing content of...
So it's the post office, so it's boring. So I want to make it look fun. I try to do the edits and all of that.
Okay, all right, so we're having an editing workshop next week. We're going to go over like the basics of editing and some stuff that you can do and theories you can keep in mind when editing. But in terms of shooting, what you can do to make it a little more interesting, you can get not a camera, but a lens with a low aperture or a low f-stop. So that means it makes the background very blurry so that it focuses specifically on one object. Like if you see here, this is the camera. Let me focus on something. So I'm going to open up the So as you can see, the pole and the table is in focus. Well, they're not completely in focus, but they're not blurry. Versus if I get a lens with a lower aperture, you see only the thing there is in focus. So that makes it, sometimes this is like the cinematic mode on your phone or your iPhone, but that does it digitally where it digitally masks out the background and blurs it. So that's why sometimes you get this weird artifacting around it. It don't look clean. But if you get a camera with a good lens, a lens that has a low f-stop, you can get an image that looks like this. As you see, that's clearly in focus and the background is blurred out. Makes it look a little more professional, looks a little more interesting than if you were capturing everything. This f-stop goes down to 2.8, no, 2, T2.
And what's the name of the lens?
So I'm going to go into that in a second.
Okay.
As Akeem had said, get a good tripod, yeah?
Yeah, so
Thanks.
you were saying the type of camera for event, like an event highlight or recap.
I would say get a hybrid camera, one that can do photos and videos. So a good hybrid camera is the Canon R5 or the A7 IV or 3 or 2 or the A6400 is a good line. So what you can do is look up good hybrid cameras. Hybrid mean they're good at shooting photos and videos. This camera here, this is not a good hybrid camera. This is a video-centric camera. It can take still photos, but it's not really meant for that. And then you have cameras that are really good at photos and not good at video. So if you get a good hybrid so that you can shoot good videos and good photos.
Okay, so I have 5i, the Canon.
Canon T5i, that's actually my first camera.
It's a decent between photo and video for now. That's one. But for the lens, oh, you say you're going to get into lenses,
I'm going to get
right?
into lenses, yeah.
Okay, so that's one. The next thing is, if I'm going to do like a recap of an event or do a performance, the the focus. Like, how do you manipulate the movements with the focus?
Okay, so most likely it's a T5i.
Yeah.
So your camera is going to have autofocus, which it can be reliable sometimes it can't be reliable. It might do its own thing. You're probably pointing at somebody, focus on the background. I think for the T5i, you have touch focus on the LCD screen, so you can tap the subject. Usually for humans or animals, it will focus on the eyes because that's usually what you want to be the sharpest. But if that isn't working for you and it's not focusing properly, you can manually focus it. So you change the lens from autofocus to manual, but that takes a little bit more practice because you have to manually turn the
So
focus
that's
ring
exactly
on it.
how I do it now manually, but this is just me kind of, research, trying to think. So I was wondering if there was another way to do it, if there's another standard. But for now, that's... I just
For
use
now,
the
yeah, I
manual.
think manual focus is good because you don't get that, what they call focus breathing. That's when it's like hunting for something to focus on and you get
Yeah.
that kind of weird jittery look. So you can turn it to manual to do that, or you can ensure that the subject that you're pointing the camera at is well lit, because cameras, they don't focus as good in low light. Or if it's overexposed, if it's too bright, it don't focus as good. So make sure that it's properly lit, and that will help you to focus a little bit better. And as I said, most cameras, you can touch the LCD to ensure that it will track or focus on that subject.
Okay.
Tripods, get a good tripod. That's all I have to say about that. Get a good tripod. It's not something that you're going to, it's not like electronics. They're not going to create a tripod 2.4 tomorrow. Just get a tripod. Get a good tripod that will stand up and be sturdy and not ruin the equipment, like Akeem. Lenses now. You have two types of lenses, prime and zoom. Prime basically mean it can't zoom. It's just one focal length, it's stuck. So if you look at your lenses, I'm going to pass this around and please don't drop it. This is a cinema lens. You can just pass this around. You're going to have two rings on it. One is for iris, or the aperture, and one is for focus. So the difference between a prime lens and a zoom lens, as I said, one is a fixed focal length. So this one on the camera here, that's fixed. It's 24 millimeters. If I want to get a tighter shot, I have to move the camera. Versus with a zoom lens, you can usually, on the lens itself, or you have cameras that can control the zoom function, but on the lens itself, you twist it, and it either get wider or tighter. Those are zoom lenses. Difference, well, you just say, why wouldn't you just get a zoom lens? Say you have multiple focal lengths. Difference is zoom lenses aren't as sharp. So a photographer will tell you, get a prime lens because those are very sharp. A videographer will tell you, get a zoom lens because it's more versatile. So it really depends. I prefer zoom lenses, especially if I'm doing event coverage, because I don't have to get right up in Tony's face to get that shot that I was talking about earlier. I can stay back where I am and get that shot. And then I can just zoom out and get the establishing shot with a zoom lens. But as I say, you do compromise on the sharpness of the lens. So that lens going around, that is a cinema lens. Why it's a cinema lens? It has those two gears on it that I spoke about. One is to control the focus. And in production, like the same thing that we're doing here, how the camera feed is going to the TV. The TV would be basically a monitor for somebody called a focus puller. And they would be the one pulling focus. Because this don't have autofocus. So this will not automatically focus on what I want it to. You have to tell it what to focus on. So you usually have somebody dedicated in the production team that will stay at the screen and have a little wheel. So I turn the wheel forward, it puts the focal plane further. I pull the wheel back, it brings the focal plane back. You have somebody that literally the whole job is just to pull focus. So that is why that lens is special, different from a still lens or a photo lens that you might be used to. So that's one of the downsides of getting bigger and more expensive cameras is usually you need more people to operate it. So it's not just point and shoot anymore like the Sony that I had up here earlier where I can just point it and it films and whatever. This, I don't know if you realize, every time I took up the camera to film, how I place my hand is right under the barrel of the lens so I can focus. That's what I've been doing when I'm doing this here. So this is pulling the... So that is me pulling the focus on it. So you can pull the focus yourself, but usually I want to focus on getting the framing and everything, and someone else's job is to pull the focus. And usually they come in sets. Cinema lens like this come in sets. So the set was about 2,200 and it come with 3 lenses. Yes, I think about $800, $700 per lens. But that is on the lower end of cinema lens. You have lenses that cost 10,000 US, 50,000 US. So exactly. So, okay, so lenses as well. There's something very important you need to consider. The lens mount. Each camera has a different lens mount. Each camera manufacturer comes with a different lens mount. Canon cameras are EF, Sony cameras are E mount, Panasonic is, I think, L mount. You have different lens mount for different cameras. So you have to ensure that the lens that you're getting has the current lens mount to fit that camera. Because if you go buy I cannot put this lens on my Sony camera on that camera right now. It's not going to fit. So, unless you use an adapter that they sell here at Cameratech. So you can use adapters. But the thing with adapters is a drawback where the autofocus is not going to be as quick and it might not be as... Say that again? And it can just fail randomly because it's basically... In life, the more points of... Yeah, you add more points of failure. Some of them work great and perfect, but there is a drawback of using an adapter. So you really want to just use the native lens mount to your camera. So you can just Google and say, all right, I have a Canon, what lens mount do I have? EF, and make sure that lens that you're getting is an EF mount. All right, I went over this already. Yeah. Oh, sorry. So the difference with wide angle and telephoto, the telephoto will compress the background a lot more. As you can see here, the background is very blurred versus in this picture here. Thanks. Versus in this picture here. Yeah. So as you can see, there's a visual difference between wide angle and telephoto. As I say, know your lens mount. You choose your lens based on what you want to shoot. As I say, the story that you're telling or your objective is the most important because you're going to get a wide lens for real estate. You want to show as much as possible. You get a tight lens for sports. You want to get directly onto the player that you're following, that kind of thing. Yeah, no problem. All right, so we're going to get into my personal tips and advice, I guess, doing this for a while now. So I'm going to go into video for business. So I have 2 categories, right? Video for business and video for creators. And I kind of going to give you some, I guess, advice, some tips, some insider knowledge on both. Because I have been on both ends of the spectrum where I have a video production company, what I also use to create content as an influencer. So video for business, a great way you can use video to help your business is product demos and explainers. Show people what your product does. So like Tony, you have a skincare brand. You can have an explainer video showing how to use the toners, how to use whatever it is that you have. You can do explainer videos to sell your product that way. People like to know how your product can be used. Product demos as well. You can show it being applied to the skin, that kind of thing. If you have any other product-based brand or product-based business, video is really good. It's a lot better at selling it than stills or graphics because video converts the most on social media. Behind the scenes or BTS, sometimes, and it's kind of crazy, sometimes our BTS content gets more views than the actual content. Like we will shoot a behind the scenes of a production we do, and I get like 20,000 views, and actual video get like 5. That is coming soon. Wait, that never posted already? Oh, okay. So behind the scenes of videos or behind the scenes of the production is how you as a business owner, I'm going to pick on you, Tony, because I only remember your business. You can do a behind the scenes of you creating the product. People love to see that. I sit down on TikTok for hours watching people fill up jars of, I don't even know what it is. And just seeing people put on the labels and stuff like that, that is a way you can get traction to your business using video. Client testimonials, as I started off with my very exaggerated client testimonial, is another way you can get persons to be interested in your business, showing how clients interact with you, how they interface with your brand, how they experience with your brand. That's a good way video can help your business. Brand storytelling. Show like why your brand exists. So you can even do like a message from the CEO. You can do a 5 things our employees like to do when they get into work, that kind of thing. Give your business personality. Video helps a lot with that versus a static post that is just all heap of damn text. So video is really the highest converting on social media in terms of your attention span. Tutorials or how-to content and ads and promotions. So business for video. I am a proud promoter of video for your business. Like I feel like especially in the day and age where social media is so accessible to everybody, if you're not putting out videos for your business right now, you're leaving a lot on the table. And you can do it yourself. You don't need to wait till you have that and this and that and whatever. I showed you ways you can use your phone. You can, our friend at the back went to Dunn's and got some lights like that. Don't be limited by the gear that you have. The principles that we went over and the ideas and concepts that went over is just as important or more important than the gear that you use. You can use your phone, you can use whatever lights you have available and still create great content. And it's better to create now than later. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is to plant one now. So I say if you have a business that you're the engine of, create content for it, video content. It sells, it works. Video for creators. If you want to use video to make money, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can get monetized. You have a lot of platforms that allow monetization. That means they put ads on your video content, and whatever money they make from those ads that they place, you get a portion of that. So say YouTube. You get monetized on YouTube by creating behind the scenes content like Kinematic Studios are doing. We've been placing some videos on YouTube. We're not monetized as yet, but that's an avenue to get paid as creators because YouTube pays, I think you get 60 cents, they get 40 cents per dollar. So if your video makes $1, you get 60 cents out of it. So say you put out a video, it gets a lot of views. That gets into more complicated stuff like CPM and CRM and all of that. But if you as a creator put your content out there on platforms that you're able to monetize, you can get money that way. Like TikTok, you can monetize on TikTok, you can monetize on Instagram. If you're a part of certain regions, I don't think you can do it out here yet. But like the creator program on TikTok, you can get monetized. You can monetize on YouTube. You can monetize your content on Patreon, which is like a paid platform. So if you have knowledge, or if you are selling if you have knowledge, or if you are a personality that people want to engage with, those are ways that you can make money. Sponsorships. Say you're doing daily vlogs, you can get sponsorships from, say, a car wash company. You can get sponsorships from whoever that wants to be in your videos to be put in front of your audience. There's monetization, there's sponsorships. You can get free products and stuff. Like a lot of reviewers, the stuff that they review is actually sent to them by the client. So I don't know if you know Pedro out here. He does videos as well. And he reviews a lot of stuff. Basically, I own a camera brand, and I want more people to know about that camera brand. I'm going to send it to persons that are reviewing cameras so that their audience is now introduced to that camera. So win-win. I, as a camera brand, make more fans or make more customers. You get money, you get a free camera, and your audience gets introduced to something new. It's not just cameras, it can work in whatever niche you're doing. If you're a vlogger, if you're doing day in the life content, whatever it is, video for content creators, I think is very, very, very important and impactful. All right, so these are the personal, as we wrap up, these are some of the personal resources that I use. Sorry. Resources I use personally, it's not personal resources. Sunseeker app. I use this often. This is a device that is an app that helps me to tell the position of the sun. As I had said to you, shooting outside, you don't want the sun to be directly ahead because you're going to get those raccoon eyes. So I have an app that tells me precisely where the sun is. If you can see here, the sun is now right there. So I can know, based on that, I can set you can pass around this app if you know.
Will it work inside?
Yeah, it works inside. You use the gyroscope on the phone. So it tells you not only where the sun is now, where it will be at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, not only where it will be during the day, but where it will be in December, because you know the Earth is slightly tilted, so it will be a little bit this way or a little bit that way. So I use that app to tell where the sun is, especially when you have outside shoots. Well, not only outside shoots, because you might be shooting inside. I have a nice big window. I did this shoot for Vamos, and I knew that we had to shoot at 5 o'clock because the sun was coming in through this small window at that time. So we had literally a window of time to shoot while the sun would be right there. So I used the app to be able to find the sun and say, all right, the sun is going to be here at 6 o'clock. That's the best time to shoot here. So that's the Sunseeker app. CAD range. So I use this a lot for pre-production, where it basically mimics the focal lengths of the different cameras. So here it shows you which cameras will you put in the camera data. So you can use the app as basically a viewfinder for your camera. I don't know if you've ever seen those pictures with cinematographers or directors looking through like a little lens thing that they hold. That's basically, instead of using the whole camera and setting up the frame or whatever, they can get the frame before they shoot. So this is the same Mother's Day ad. I'm using my brother as a stand-in. So this was the shot to get the framing of it. So I knew exactly where the mother would be, where the baby would be, how it would look before we actually had the talent in. So that's how I use the CAD range app. That's on my phone as well. Milanote. So this is, let me show you something quick. I'm going to show you the pre-production of the Mother's Day ad that we did. So this is what it looks like. This is where I get all of my ideas and stuff on paper. So it's like a big scrapbook, but a digital scrapbook. And I use it for mood boards, for using shot lists, storyboards, stuff like that. Anything you can have to-do lists as well. So basically, it's like a big scrapbook, but a digital version. And sometimes I even share this with the client so that they can have an idea of what I have in mind and how I expect the shoot to go. So this is references that I found on FrameSet, as I said earlier today. And then these are some AI generated images that I use. These are the actual links to the fake baby that we got. This is a checklist that we use to kind of check off what we had, the props and stuff like that. And this is, I use Adobe Color for this color palette. So Adobe Color is a great tool to find colors that are monochromatic, colors that are analogous, colors that are complementary. So it helps you with color palettes that are cohesive. So this is how the pre-production for the Mother's Day shoot did look. And that was all in Milanote. It's a great tool, it's free. You can download it and just start scrapbooking ideas. You find it's like a Pinterest board, but more in detail. Milanote. Milanote. Hold on, let me show it back on the screen. Milanote. WeTransfer. I use this to send footage to remote editors. I used to use this to send edits to clients. I don't use it anymore. There is a paid version of it though. I think without the paid version, you can send up to, is 6 it reach now? No, right, 2. I think it's 2. You can send 2 gigabytes free. There's a free version. There's a free file transfer system called Smash that is free up to as much as you can send, but the thing is, it's a little slower. You don't get like priority access to the server. It's a little slower, but Smash works as well. I think it's smash.com. But WeTransfer, you have the ability to like customize your landing page, so you send your video to your clients and it look very professional, that kind of thing. So even here, this is an animation, our logo animation that's happening. So when our clients get files like this, they'll see the animation and say, here, you can download a file there. It makes your work level up a little bit more and your presentation look even more professional. Monitor Control Plus, so that is, or the Blackmagic app. You can use that and control Sony cameras. So say you want an extra screen for your camera. Thank you. Say you want an extra screen for your camera. You want a bigger screen because you know your phone is slightly bigger than the camera LCD. And your phone is actually brighter than the camera LCD. You can use the Monitor Control app. For Sony cameras, there's one for Canon. I don't remember the name, but you can just Google it. Any camera control app, Camera Connect, any camera control app you can find for your phone, for your camera is good. So I use these websites as well. I use them very often. ShotDeck, same like FrameSet, but I think this one is paid. Eye Candy. This one is, I use this almost all the time. You get visual effects and camera effects, framing, stuff like that. You get a whole lot of them here on Eye Candy. EYECNDY, there's no A. And you get a whole lot of references. It's good to get a lot of references. Vimeo. When you upload to YouTube, YouTube does this thing called compressing. Basically, it takes a file and it degrades some of the quality to ensure that it fits better on the platform. Vimeo doesn't compress your footage, so if you do a 4K video and you color grade it good and you shoot it nice, whatever, you leave it at full quality. So I'll usually use Vimeo to post like my more polished videos, and then also use that Vimeo link on our website so that whoever views our website sees the clean, compressed videos. And then this is Frame.io, another paid platform, frame.io. Another paid platform, but it makes it look a whole lot more professional. You're able to send your client one link, and they can view the content and leave comments on the content, exactly time-stamped where it is. So I send them a frame link, and them say, oh, at 3 seconds, take out the lady because she don't work at the company anymore. That happens a whole lot of times. Take out this, she don't work at the company anymore. Or 10 seconds, I can point and draw directly on the frame and say, take out this part because whatever, we don't want to see this other brand in the shot. ChatGPT, don't sleep on ChatGPT, you know. Yeah. But there's a even crazier way to use ChatGPT that I've been using the other day. I'm learning 3D, like 3D modeling, 3D animation, that kind of thing. And I've been using Blender. There's a software named Blender. I've been using Blender in the past for a little bit. I kind of forget some stuff. I literally just put ChatGPT in assistant mode, the voice activation mode, and I just talk to it. How do I find the viewport for modeling? All right, you go to whatever, and it literally takes me step by step on how to do it. So now when I'm doing 3D, I just have my phone on. It's like having a mentor over your shoulder. Sometimes it gives some wrong information, but for the most part, 80% of the time, it's accurate. So I literally just put it in, you download the ChatGPT app on your phone, and you can hey, I'm hosting a workshop. Can you tell the class hi for me, please? Oh, hold on, no. Hey, I'm hosting a workshop. Can you tell the class hi for me, please?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited that you're all here for the workshop, and I hope you have a fantastic time learning and creating together. Let's make it an awesome session.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you can just be working and you just asking it questions and it will respond in real time. So, I mean, a lot of times I have to tell it to slow down a little bit, but I think there's a little cheat code that I never thought about before. It's just like probably a month ago I started doing it where I'll just sit down and be working, especially if it's in a new software that I'm using and I'm not so familiar with where stuff are. I'm just like, all right, where is whatever. I'm all right, if you go to the top panel, you can find settings, drop down menu, whatever. It's just, it works. Thank you. All right, so now starts the question and answer section.
The question that I was supposed to ask. Can you use uplight as a backlight?
I try to stay away from that. I personally don't like uplights at all because, especially for the backlight, it creates some weird shadows on the background. But sometimes that's what's like at the event or that's at the venue. You see they have a whole lot of uplights because to your eye, it looks fine. But now when you add somebody in front of that frame, it doesn't look so fine. Or especially if the uplight is pointing at them, you get those weird shadows on the face and it doesn't look appealing at all. So yes, you can use it, but I prefer to stay away from it. If I don't have to use any uplight, either as foreground or background, I try to stay away from it.
Okay, but what if you want to add color? So would you still use your uplight, but then use your backlight?
So so if you can add, as in add color to the background?
Yeah, like you have a white background and you want a green and a red.
Ideally, I would have the lights up and point them down. So put them on a stand and point them down, rather than have them pointing up at the light. Because now you're going to create a gradient going upwards, where the down at the bottom will be more saturated than up at the top, versus if you have it up and point it down. That's my personal preference. Some people like it the other way, but I don't think it looks as good. It looks more intentional when you have it pointing at the background, pointing down.
Okay, so if you have it up and pointing down, can it then be used
Yeah,
as
then it can be used
backlight?
as a yeah.
Okay.
Have a question here? Okay, all right. Oh, sorry, I forgot about you guys. My bad.
So I had a question relating to, you had mentioned when you're doing the framing of the shot, you do like close-ups and reverse shots and stuff. How do you determine, because I know that a good rule with cinematography and videography is show not tell. How do you determine what you basically put on screen, especially for like tutorials and voiceovers, rather than leaving it to some words on screen or just have someone saying something? How do you determine what you put on screen in a creative way? I don't know if that question really makes sense.
Okay, I get where you're coming from, and that would most likely be answered in the post-production workshop in terms of just how you tell a story with editing. But I understand what you're saying, and I can answer that by saying you want to show, not tell, as you mentioned. So you really need to know who your audience is, who is viewing it. Because if it's somebody that is proficient in the program that you're using, you probably don't have to show every single click to get to that menu. So say you're going into the sound menu for Premiere Pro, you're not going to show every single click. But say it's a beginner that you're presenting to, or it's for a beginner audience, you might show the mouse going to go and click this menu, click that menu, click that menu. So it really depends on who the audience is. So that's how you tell what you leave in and what you take out. Because if it's a more advanced audience, you don't have to spoon feed them with certain things. If it's a basic audience, you don't want to jump over stuff that you might think they already know. But that is something that we'll get in more detail in the post-production workshop next week. You have questions online?
Yeah, the first question is, why don't you use WeTransfer anymore?
Me, I don't use WeTransfer anymore because it is not as robust as I need. They do have a system now, it's called WeTransfer Portals, where you can do the same thing as Frame.io, where you send it to the client and they leave comments on it. But with Frame, you have the Adobe and the DaVinci integration where clients can leave comments and you import those comments straight into your timeline in Premiere Pro or DaVinci. WeTransfer doesn't have that. So say they leave 10 comments, you import it back into DaVinci, you see it right there on your timeline, you know exactly where it is. And WeTransfer, we use it for file transfer, same way. We still have a paid WeTransfer, but that's really like footage across team members or if I need to send specific files. But for the final video, on Frame.io, because they can view it there without downloading it. A lot of clients complain that, oh, them phone filling up with storage because they keep downloading each version of the video to review. So Frame.io is like a video viewer. It's like sending them a YouTube link. They can just view it, stream the data to them instead of downloading it.
All right, so one thing that I'll add to that, because you've sent me a couple of files. What I've noticed is that I can download the footage, for example, in different, what do you call that? Where it takes up
resolutions, yeah.
Quality. Yeah. So if I just want to review it and if it's shot in 4K, I don't have to download it in 4K. I can just download it in the smallest file size, review it, leave my notes, and then when I'm ready for the final file, I'll download it
in the full original
resolution that I need. So that's a helpful tool that I think is a major upgrade versus using WeTransfer.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Any more questions?
Do I?
I have one right here.
I don't know if you touched on this, but because I'm an esthetician and I actually do clients, so I can't really use my hands to be, you know, touching the camera or videoing or anything like that. But what is the best way for persons like me in that area, you know, overhead shots? Because
so what you can do, you can get a ring light, because usually ring lights, they have a phone mount in the middle. You can get one, because one, it will have very flat lighting, beauty lighting. You want the person to look as flattering as possible. You want to show your work in the best light, which would be flat lighting. And two, it comes built in with a phone holder. So most of them, you might have to add some weight to the bottom to stop it from toppling over. But they usually have like a flex hand on it. You can put like your knapsack, you can put something to hold on the weight of it. You just bring it over and have it right over the head of the client, not patient, client.
Client.
So that way you're seeing top down, and then you, most times, I'm seeing it before because I've done videos for estheticians where they're basically have to work around the ring light. So your life, you'll be a little bit harder, but the video is going to come out pretty nice. So a ring light with a built-in phone holder is pretty good for that, yeah.
Okay.
Or if you have the budget, you can try out the Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
I was just about to mention that.
The Ray-Ban, so it's basically glasses with built-in cameras on it, so that it's like a POV, yeah. So you can see exactly what you're seeing.
Look, I'd say the only downfall with the Meta glasses, because I've been doing some research on it, I'm still gonna get it, but I'm also gonna get some for sale because they're not too expensive, and there are some persons who definitely want POV shots based on the type of content that they do. The biggest downfall is the battery life. And the second biggest downfall is the fact that you can just put your phone on a ring light and you get that perfect lighting. With the Ray-Ban glasses, you don't have that. So whatever the light, like you need to be in perfect light setting for you to get that quality.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the low light not that good. So in terms of shooting in the dark, so if your space isn't that bright, it's going to be a little grainy, the footage. Yeah. I think you get, what, 3 hours?
Yeah. It's not continuous recording.
Yeah,
3
no.
hours.
So if you're charging,
you get 3 hours, but if you're doing continuous recording, it's gonna be less. Yeah, maybe there.
Probably. And then if you're recording sound, even less.
Yeah.
I was going to record sound. You can extend the battery life if you don't need it.
The light on it.
All right, so the Meta glasses have an automatic light, almost like a Siri feature. If you turn that off, it can probably last the whole day.
Oh.
The recordings, though, you can either get a 1 minute recording or a 3 minute recording.
Yeah.
So you set that up in the app.
So if you turn off like the voice that's constantly listening to your voice,
yeah,
you get longer back. Okay,
because
nice.
it's not connecting to the internet or anything.
Okay. All right. Well, that's like the Siri. Like you say, hey Siri. You know, Siri always listening to you. So when you say hey
so
Siri, it activated.
Right. Won't be listening or anything like that.
Yeah, no longer. When them come out with the class action lawsuit, you can get in the $50.
Yes, I just want to add that the Ray-Ban Meta is a really, really good investment. I'm not even going to say gadget, it's an investment. If you have a business, it can elevate your point of view. I have a Osmo, and I think that personally makes no sense about it. The Ray-Ban Meta, the Ray-Ban Meta basically, it's on your face, so you always have a view. You just hit a button, record as much as you can, and you just bring it back home and chop it up.
Yeah.
That has elevated my thing.
That's crazy because the thing with that is the Osmo versus using like a DSLR. The Osmo is game changing. So I guess that is how you feel about the Meta.
Meta is even
compared to the
even
yeah. Oh, you have one. She has one. Nice. Yeah, show it to the class.
That's a Ray-Ban Meta?
Yeah.
I just walked right into that.
By the way, I also have a lot of footage as well. I can show you.
Do you have some footage that you can show? Yeah, just pass it around.
But outside, if you shoot outside, it works perfectly fine.
Yeah, man.
We did a whole.
The thing is that there's no manual, so whatever the lighting, it will just automatically.
Because I know about it because we did a whole carnival recap video as the point of view of a reveler. So this is the Ray-Ban glasses that we're speaking about, and that is the Osmo that you had mentioned earlier.
The Pocket 3.
Yeah. The Osmo is very good if you are used to filming with a cell phone and you want something, because the Osmo is basically a built-in gimbal
on it. Yeah.
Right? But when you're comparing those two, personally, the glasses, top tier.
Yeah.
I did a behind-the-scenes video. It was
Just
only
with
just 3 seconds, and it was me posing a client.
Yeah.
I had someone who booked me because they
saw that. Yeah.
They saw that.
As I said, do video for your business and stuff like this. This is perfect for behind the scenes, as him said.
It's perfect.
That
for
perfect.
POV behind the scenes shots.
And most persons don't even know that you're recording.
Yep. So
there's an actual light on it though.
Yeah, there's a little light on it that flashes whenever you're recording.
Yes. You're not in them face with a camera.
It's my go-to around YouTube use it for social media content, but it's my go-to for YouTube. I have the grid on the screen here. So once I use the center grid, I know that that's what I use for my social media. So this is a game changer.
That's a game changer, yeah. But that's
I'm
the next
going to
thing.
use both. So I plan to do like travel vlog, and I'm going to use this for my POV, in certain situations. This is looking forward to getting more. Both good options. Oh yes. Yes.
Say that again?
It's also a headset.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can listen to music.
You can listen to music, you can take phone calls, all of that. That.
You're that bad. You're that bad.
There,
I never know
there
that.
are other glasses. Sorry, we're gone for a whole time.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
There are other glasses that have better translation features than the meta glasses. And that's the reason why I haven't gotten into that yet. Because, for example, I'm going to Japan. And me not know nobody over there. So, and I like to make I've been to Spanish speaking countries and I meet up with people and I say, all right, show me the ropes and whatnot. I'll be just lost. We don't know nothing about it. So I need one of those devices. And I was doing the research. They say it's good. I don't recall if they said that Japanese is a part of the lineup, but that is definitely a good feature for the meta glasses. If you're traveling to bilingual countries, countries that speak other languages, that's a good option.
So, a question right here.
So what camera would you suggest for doing like skits, like quick 1 minute, 2 minute skits and stuff like that?
Can get, you're not doing photos any at all?
Not really.
It depends on you. The Osmo could work, as in that camera, the Osmo Pocket, that could work. Or you could get something a little more beefier if you need. No, for skits, I wouldn't use that unless you're using a DJI mic. Because without the DJI mic, you really can't get professional audio into that. So I'd say something like probably a Sony a6400 or a6300. So that's like a mirrorless camera in the Sony line. Or Canon. The T5i is good, but I'm trying to remember any other.
The T5i is basically the T5i is a good camera. However, it is an older camera.
It's an older, yeah.
It still works. I actually have one in the store right now that we use in-house for the business. This camera, you don't have to use it with a DJI mic kit. Personally, I use the Hollyland kit with it.
It pairs with it same way?
Yeah, man. No, it doesn't pair wirelessly. You have to plug in.
Oh, you have a 3.5 jack on this?
No, it's USB-C.
So any type C that
any
can put.
type
Okay,
C
okay.
mic connects to it.
Okay.
So I think this is a good option for run and gun for skits because it has the built-on gimbal, makes it excellent, right? However, I want to say as you grow in your craft, let's say you want to do short films, you can use this, but you'd want to get a mirrorless camera or something like that. So it's the price point for this might be pretty close to just getting a mirrorless. So when you're buying a camera, you want to think not just where you are, but where do you want to bring your craft to, right? Oh, sorry.
So for cameras, inside the camera, DSLR, those are older types of cameras. They had a mirror that reflected the light coming in, and the mirror would reflect it onto the lens. Mirrorless cameras don't have that mirror anymore.
So all you're seeing is the sensor.
But both of them are interchangeable lens. So you can take lenses off and change the lens. The Osmo, you can't change the lens. So that's a downside of using the Osmo versus a DSLR or a mirrorless camera.
Sorry, I was.
Yeah, that's everything.
Oh, there was
someone live.
Sorry, someone on the live that was asking if you use what rail? Where is it? Yeah. Sliders.
Sliders.
Do you use sliders as a part of your process flow, and what would be the main purpose for using a slider?
So Yeah, we do use sliders. You have two types. You have motorized and manual. A manual slider, most times in the film industries, are going to be a dolly, whether it's a Dana dolly or the chair dolly that you sit on. I don't know if you ever see those shows where they sit on a chair like this, they have the camera and it's all on a moving rail. So the benefit of that is stabilization. You get rid of all of that microjigs, you get rid of all of that movement on other axes because you're not going up and down. It's literally like you're gliding across a surface. There is a hack that you can do if you want a very DIY version of a slider. You can put some sort of cloth under your camera over a smooth surface and you just pull it to the side like that, you get a smooth shot. But that is for if you really need something DIY. Yeah, I use it. Not very often though. I use the dolly a lot, but not really the motorized slider. Definitely, especially in a lot of commercial work, you're going to use a dolly instead of a gimbal just because it's more robust, it's more professional, and you get better footage out of it. Yeah. All right, if there's no more questions, class dismissed. Oh, one last. Yeah, that was a wrap up. Oh, you gonna wrap up? Okay, you will wrap up.
All right, so the last question is, if you were shooting at an event, say a party, whatever, we're talking about a video coverage, what type of assistance would you most likely need?
Me personally? I have it down to a science. When I go to an event, I know exactly what I'm doing in terms of what I'm capturing, the story I'm trying to tell. So really, it's only if the event is very big, like how we covered some fest where there was a stage separately from the booth we were capturing. So the only assistance I would need is probably in a second videographer or a second shooter to be able to capture stuff that, yeah, B-cam. But in terms of audio or anything like that, we don't really walk with much. We'd have probably like a vox pop mic, kind of like that would give to whoever we're interviewing. So event coverage, in terms of assistance, I think one man, run and gun, as we said earlier, can get it done.
So it comes down to your workflow, how you operate, how you shoot,
and what the client wants. Because some clients, they might want you to set up a tripod and capture the entire stage. So you might need somebody to man that camera versus somebody that is up and about in the booth or in the crowd getting like reactions, stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks guys for coming. This has been our third workshop. We have 3 more workshops to follow. This next week is video editing, where we'll go through the actual theories and everything that goes into video editing and editing on different platforms that's more accessible to beginners. Then after that, we have motion graphics. Do you guys know what motion graphics is? Anybody? Raise your hands if you know motion graphics. I don't like that. I don't like that. Okay, so motion graphics is something that actually ties your videos together. It's like, you know, lyric videos, how they usually have the lyrics running across, and a lot of the more recent ones have been more creative, and you see like the artist and the lyric intertwining. So in our motion graphics class, we're going to actually teach you that, how to add motion graphics and to make your videos pop out a little bit more, because most recently we see a few trends where it's like they use motion graphics instead of the automated caption at the bottom. So it just makes your video a little bit more engaging. So we have...
Not to mention that one of the key... Yeah, so one of the key things that we want to highlight about motion graphics and why it's important. Let's say you wanted to shoot an information video. Typically, you'd get a subject, which you might hire a modeler or an actor or whatever. With motion graphics, you can tell that story, you can sell that product without that big set, without all the lights, without all the bodies in the studio getting everything ready and managing cameras and whatnot. You can get that message across using motion graphics. All right? So that's the key thing that I want you guys to understand if you're interested in that. workshop.
Yeah. And you can look out on our Instagram. We're going to be showing some examples of motion graphics in the weeks following up. And then we have our production workshop, which I'm really excited about. Do you guys understand the concept? Because this is what I really wanted to ask. Do you guys understand the concept of our production workshop, like what it is? No? Yes? Everybody? No? Okay. Our production workshop is basically where we take everything that you learn for video, because we did photography already, and that was a mix of theory and practical. But for our production workshop, we're taking everything we learned today, everything we learned next week, motion graphics, and putting it into the production workshop. We're going to have two sets. We're going to have a podcast set, and we're going to have a product set. And then you guys are going to get the opportunity to use equipment and then the guidance of your instructor, so Kavan, and then the motion graphics instructor, and then actually create real content. So you're going to have a product. We're going to have a product, say like this water, and you guys are going to create an actual video for your portfolio with the guidance of the instructor, and then you can add graphics on it, edit it. We'll have actual stations, so it's a lot more hands-on. Yes?
Do we get to do both, or we just have to pick one?
You get to do both. So it's a lot more versatile. We're going to have like a 2-person podcast setup, because we know a lot of persons want to know how to do that as well. So it's going to be a really interactive. You were saying something? Hold on. We can't, it's not official yet. We don't sign. We're working on a big product for you guys. I can't say yet. The ink not go up on the paper. But it's a nice brand. A brand I think everybody would want to work with. It's a very youthful, Crocs?
Crocs.
That's a good guess. It's a Jamaican. Actually, that's Jamaica's national shoes, really. Uptown national shoes, but not Crocs. But it's a brand that everybody knows. When you guys see the announcement, you'll be like, oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay, so if you want to actually have the hands-on, like everything that Kavan talked about today, hands-on experience, sign up for that workshop if you haven't already.
So one note, if you guys are signed up for the production workshop, the editing workshop next week, download DaVinci Resolve. There's a free version. That's the tool that we're going to be using. But the concepts and the theory will go across any editing platform that you have. But if you want to follow along step by step, you can download DaVinci Resolve. Free laptop.
It's actually, it's like the features on Canva that you have to pay for, it's actually free on DaVinci. So it's probably good to learn that one. Yeah. All right. So, and then a quick shout out to our sponsor, Roadrunner Groceries, for providing the water. They're actually having a giveaway. You shop $5,000 and you get a free air fryer or shopping spree. So just, the code is at the back. You can go on their Instagram and check out their catalog and potentially win an air fryer, because I know most people don't like to cook on like the traditional way, me being one of them. Also, the presentation that you got today, you'll be getting it in an email, so just look out for that email. There's also going to be a survey, so if there's anything that you guys liked, didn't like, wish you saw, want more of, if you want another workshop with like maybe sound, for example, just say it in the survey so we know what you guys want to see. Okay, and let me just check if I'm leaving off anything. Oh, and tell a friend to tell a friend, and bring your friend. The more people and bodies we have in the space, the more it enables us to actually keep this workshop going. We love what we're doing. We love seeing you guys. This is a good turnout. We want to keep the momentum going. So bring your friend. If you know your friend likes content creation or videography or graphics or anything, encourage them to come, because we have a lot to teach and we want to spread the word, So thanks again for coming. See you guys, everybody, hopefully. Probably not, but everybody hopefully next week, Sunday, all right?